All right, good evening, everybody. It is Friday night, and that means that we're going to talk all the latest happenings here in the world of sports. We're going to talk mostly some Major League Baseball here over the next, I would say, 90 or so some odd minutes. And to join me to talk about those things here are three of my guys, including Justin Gianelli of the Baseball Banter, Chris Bizea, Liftoff Jets and the Talking Rivals, and Rob Maraska. And fellas, how you doing today?
Hey Tom, how you
Pretty
doing?
good.
Good.
All right, obviously a lot to get into here. A lot of trades are happening, and certainly the Mets made their own move. Obviously, Dodgers also made a big move earlier today. In fact, they've made a couple of the moves here of the week. So I'll go first with Justin Gianelli, and I'll go with the Mets side of it first. We'll speak about some of the other trades here over the next, I would say hour or two. But give me your thoughts here on the Mets moving David Robertson to the Miami Marlins.
Well, it's obviously clear that their intentions are selling, as obviously the season has not gone, the way anybody's expected. And I'm actually kind of just filtering through some of Max Scherzer's comments from tonight's game. Seemed to be clear. He seemed to be clearly upset by this David Robertson trade. He said he needs to have a conversation with Mets brass about the direction of the team. So you wonder if something like that's going to also develop, play itself out um, over the next couple of days. But overall, with the Robertson trade, obviously the indication is that the Mets are, waving the white flag. I mean, they ultimately 5 days before the deadline, traded their big chip, and I can understand why they made the move. Obviously, if they've identified these players, Marco Vargas and I want to call him Roberto Hernandez, but I can't remember the other player's first name.
It's Ronald Hernandez.
Ronald, yeah, thank you, Ronald Hernandez. Obviously, if you identify guys in the minor leagues that you think really matches up with the trade you're looking to make, those players might not necessarily be there on Tuesday, right? If you say that we're going to shop around David Robertson, another reliever could come available, and all of a sudden Miami trades for somebody else, and then all of a sudden a guy you coveted in the Miami organization is now no longer available because David Robertson is no longer a need. So I can understand from that point why Billy Epler may have pulled the trigger when he did. And ultimately, it's now up to the Mets the second half of the season to just, I guess, play the young guys, And I know obviously more trades will be coming, whether it's a Tommy Pham, a Mark Canha,
Guys, we spoke about
one of the
here on
aces,
Sportzwire.
Max or JV. I mean, now you wonder if Max Scherzer asks to be traded after, some of the comments tonight, because he pitched tremendous. But at the same time, it's just, I don't know. I felt like the Mets should have just kind of wrote it out because there is still so much talent on this.
Yeah,
roster.
but they haven't shown anything. I
They
mean, this
haven't.
team.
They've had a couple of nice long win streaks. They had a 6-game win streak. They had a 5-game win streak.
There's nothing to me that they're under 500. They're not going anywhere. I mean, if you
but I think at the same time you look at the talent of the roster and you look at the.
I mean, they got a lot of home games coming up. I mean,
they have a lot of home games, and you look at the potential return you're going to get for some of these guys. I just didn't feel like it was going to match up with being true sellers. So I would have just kind of just left the core as is. The main core is still going to be back next year. There's certain guys. I mean, listen, if you really want to, you could sign David Robertson right back next year. I mean, I'm sure he would be open to returning.
Yeah, we saw with Chapman and the Yankees when they moved him.
It's always possible. Not saying it would happen, but it's always possible. Guys like Tommy Pham and Mark Canha, I don't really know what their value is, and I really just don't want to be undersold, and not get the right return. So,
yeah,
obviously this is the direction that they chose, and obviously that they've won a couple in a row, and they've actually had a pretty solid July. I believe they're 13-8 in the month of July. They've been pretty good.
I mean, it was the June, right? The 6-19 in June. That just
7-19 June just destroyed the season. They have not been quite able to make it up. They're, I believe, now 49-54.
Yeah, they haven't been at 500. I think now since the first week of June, if I'm not mistaken. So
no, but then they could be but they could be almost 500 by the deadline just because of the fact
Well,
that
we're seeing it with the Cubs right now. I mean, the Cubs have gotten red hot. Now, I was reading
apparently they're reconsidering, and they may not trade Cody Bellinger. They might not trade Marcus Stroman.
The Angels got hot, and they're not moving anybody either. I mean,
they're not.
You don't know.
And the Angels added with Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez, and I'm sure they're going to be looking to add more pieces. Look for more bullpen pieces for Anaheim, but it's just frustrating to see the Mets wave the white flag. It really is.
Well, we're going to see. I also got to say hello here. The Brew Force Brad Weiss is going to join us, so I want to give him a shout out. But there he is. Let me move this back. And then I want to say hello to Omen Black. I want to give Omen a big shout out because I just watched Omen, the match between Freddie Daniels and Jason Myers over on the IMF YouTube page before we went on the air. A great match, and everything IMF is doing is firing in all cylinders. So follow them on YouTube at IMF Wrestling 666. And he says, "Hello, gents. Welcome to my show." Yeah, Omen and I were having a conversation about that. Funny story, last week I was talking some stuff to Jay Gonzalez, a.k.a. John Gonzalez, and he blocked him. And, yeah, John Gonzalez got a little bit upset about it, and I think he took it the wrong way, which sometimes some people do. We did a show on wrestling, and one of these so-called imposters, let me put it that way, Omen knows who I'm talking about, took kind of things the wrong way, and I think John probably took it the wrong way, which, again, he doesn't maybe know the inner workings of what guys do. And since Jay blocked me, I feel obligated to say the same to Rob, since what I said was basically what I was explaining. So what I was explaining was that I think John Gonzalez took it the wrong way and didn't realize that Omen was just playing around. But I'll come back to that. We'll say hello to the Brew Force. I know, Brad, what you were doing, you were just watching the Liberty game because I was following that as well. And they were down 6. I think they were down with 12 seconds left. So that didn't work out.
They lost, yeah, but they did fight back. They were down 17. They fought back and lost. But it's all right. They've been playing well, so they had a back-to-back and lost. So it's okay.
Well, speaking of you, Brad, I might as well because people are always tuning in. I'll come back to the rest of the guys. I mean, we're talking about the Mets just now, and obviously the Mets moved David Robertson to the Marlins, and I guess the Mets are, playing a little bit better of late, although I don't know how convinced anyone's still going to be at the moment. I mean, Justin was making the case, maybe you stand pat. I mean, even in the New York Post today, they were talking about players that could be moved, and I think Justin Verlander was the 4th or 5th player they had at the top of the list to be moved. I don't know. I mean, what do you make of this team right now? Mets do move Robertson. Is it time to wave the white flag, or maybe this team does just enough here to, I don't know, maybe at least stand pat further? What do you think of the Robertson move and where the team goes between now and Tuesday?
I just want to make sure I heard this right, Tom. Did you say the Mets are playing well right now? Because
they're 13-8. I mean, I'm with you. They're playing the Nationals. I mean, they're not playing teams that are spectacular, but they are 13-8 this month. They've had a good month. I mean,
I don't
give them credit. They have been good this month.
They've been good.
I don't care.
They've had their best month of the season, to tell you the truth.
I could care less. Listen to me. 13-8 in the month. Whatever. Listen to me. When you watch them play. Okay, and they barely could squeak wins against the Washington Nationals.
Like that game last week we spoke about.
I mean, come on. They don't excite you. I mean, the only person that's exciting you right now, if you told me Pete Alonso's playing well, then
Alonso's heating up. Yeah, Alonso's heating up. Yeah.
Then I could give you that. But are the Mets playing well? Hell no. They're squeaking wins out against the Nationals 2-1. They needed a rain delay and all that to win the game. I mean, the Yankees games, I mean, yeah, they beat the Yankees the first game and beat up, Hermano hasn't been pitching well. And then in the second game, I mean, they looked like the Kansas City Royals trying to hit. I mean, they were horrible. So I'm not excited about this team. This team doesn't make me go crazy. I mean, if I have to watch batting practice Carlos Carrasco pitch one more time, I think I'll throw up. I mean, I don't want to watch him anymore. I know Verlander has pitched well, so I'll give him a little credit. Scherzer, please. I mean, he pitches good once and then gets shelled the next time. I mean, I'm not going to go crazy about Scherzer, about anybody else. I mean, Quintana, I guess he's doing okay, but he showed up late to work, basically. I mean, I know he got hurt, but he's too late to the party. So, in the end, listen, the Mets are not going to knock my socks off, please. I mean, they're a team that it's okay to be selling a guy like Robertson. I mean, your bullpen sucks to begin with. He's the only one you could have really relied on. So, he's gone. The guys that they got back, listen, I've said it already, and some people want to listen to me and some people don't. Billy Epler's not to be trusted. He's not to be trusted, and I understand. Okay, that listen. The prospects and the names that you look at these guys and people are talking, guys like Ernest Dove and the Marlins organization are talking like, oh, this guy is good, blah, 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 it's okay. Let me see it first, because everything that Billy Epler's done has been horrible, garbage, and borderline, just not good. So I don't even want to say anything meaner than that, okay? So let me see it first. But ultimately, I don't mind it right now because the Mets are going nowhere. They're not making the playoffs. They haven't played enough good baseball to prove to me that they're going to get to 500. They got to show me a lot more. Beating the Washington Nationals 2-1. I know they won 5-1, but Alonso basically won them the game. So I am not going to go on here and say, oh, they're playing well. Oh, we should be excited. Oh, everything's great. Give away a few more guys. Give away Mark Canha for a bag of chips. Give away,
Now, what kind of bag of chips would you want? What kind?
Give me some Fritos and Doritos, something like that, all right?
Fritos would be very bad to have right now in the heat.
Okay, listen, Vogelback, everybody wants to, get me pumped up. Oh, he hit a home run the other day. Oh, he's doing this, okay? All he's doing right now is taking his big body and blocking young players from playing. That's all he's doing, okay? And he needs to be off.
Vogelback is just forever going to be like this, I guess, polarizing name for Mets fans over the past, I'd say, 13, 14 months. I mean, he's basically played with – there's no real use for him. He occasionally gets on base.
He's literally a human wall. He's in the way of young players.
It's like a home run once maybe every week. He gets on base here and there, does nothing off.
By the way, go call up Luke Voigt. You see what he's doing in Syracuse? Dude's hitting bombs.
I'd rather see him. I mean, listen, Vogelback – somebody dared to tell me he's playing well because he hit a home run the other day. Please. I mean, that's all he does. Once in a while, he hits a home run and then he strikes out or he walks, which everybody's like, oh, he gets on base. Yeah, that's great. Meanwhile, everybody in the world knows that no one wants to see him on base because he can't run. So it is just, listen.
No, he can't. He can't run.
Get him off the team. Give Ken away for chips. Give away what you can give away, and ultimately let the young players play.
So I would agree that Tommy Pham, the Mets should move. Tommy Pham, they should move.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mark Canha probably move, right?
Yes.
All right. So then Verlander and Scherzer, where do you fall on that? Before I get into a funny Omen UFC comment, because I do follow UFC.
Listen, people are talking about Verlander getting moved. I don't believe it. I don't think he's going to get moved.
He's pitched well these last couple starts.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and this is where if Billy Epler messes this up, I don't know what it is that is going to – everybody's talking about, oh, Billy Epler, give him a chance, okay? And a lot of people out there, I was just talking to a Mets fan, are basically saying that Epler's here because he's supposed to be the persuasion for Ohtani. Well, he's not coming here. Okay, he's not.
I don't think the Angels want to move him right now either because they're playing.
No, but I'm just saying in free agency. I'm not even talking about trading. He's not getting traded.
Right, but
free agency, he ain't coming here. Why the hell do you want to play for this team right now? So listen, Billy Epler. If he makes a trade for Verlander, he better get back something for it. He better get back some players that are going to knock our socks off and make us say, all right, well, this is a guy who can impact the team in a few years. So this is a guy who we can believe in to play this position in the future. He better do it. But Billy Epler, again, I'll say it one more time, is not to be trusted, and he's definitely not the answer for GM. I mean, I know Chris complains about Cashman, and he should complain about Cashman, but we should have the right as Mets fans, even though everybody's going to be, short samples. Whatever. He traded for Darren Ruff. He traded for Vogelback. He's done all this nonsense. Enough with it. This is a team that wants to win now. I mean, this is an owner, Steve Cohen, who said 3 to 5 years. This guy is not a good answer for the next couple of years to be the GM of the New York Mets.
Yeah, I mean, we'll certainly find out.
I got news for you. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, they won 101 games.
That's bad news. That's bad news then.
Yeah, but hold on. Because Chris made this point, though. Chris made this point about the 100 wins, all right? And we talked about this. All right, we had 100 wins. We had a good season. But Chris dated back to that trade deadline and what Billy Epler did to help his team win in the playoffs. Which was nothing. So he hasn't done anything to help the team. Don't give him credit for 100 wins. He didn't do much to help that. Well, again, he should have done more to
No, I
help the team
agree.
get further in the playoffs.
I definitely agree, but I mean that they won 101 games, whether they did or
You
didn't.
still can't take that. Even if the deadline was as underwhelming as it was, you can't take that away from him. And the fact is, most of those, if you don't want to credit him for the 101 win season, then you can hardly blame him for this season because there's still only a couple of pieces that are Billy Epler brought in. It's from previous regime, a lot of these players. Honestly, it really takes 3 to 5 years for a GM to really make their stamp on the full roster, and he's going to be here. Now, the whole David Stern situation, whether they bring him in as president, that's possibly going to happen. But my thinking is Billy Epler will still be the GM, but David Stearns will just be over him, and he'll have all the final says.
Well, we're going to certainly find out. And Omen wanted to ask a UFC Mount Rushmore question. I actually have that. We'll come back to baseball in a second, Anthony Finkel. But I'm going to go George St. Pierre, Daniel Cormier, Anderson Silva, John Jones. Those are my, I guess, 4. Maybe 5 is a bonus right now currently. Israel Adesanya. He goes minus column. Yeah, but McGregor's record hasn't. I don't know if some of these guys might not follow UFC, but McGregor's not been good recently. George St. Pierre, Chuck Liddell, that would be the next point. Yeah, Royce Gracie and Chanel Sonnen purely for the promo skills. Yeah, I sort of agree with some of that here. Joe Dell, want to say hello to Joe Dell. Mets are playing relatively well. Yeah, I mean, they are 13-8 this month. But again, they played the White Sox. They played the Nationals. I mean, they played teams that maybe the Mets should have taken advantage for here on the schedule. Anthony Finkel celebrating his 10th anniversary with DPH Property Service Maintenance. And was it 10 years? Because I've known you for 8. I didn't realize you started it back in 13. Because I remember you at the FDC. And then I think, Senator Hamilton was after that in the tech committee. Remind me again when you were on the tech committee with Jesse Hamilton. But congratulations nonetheless on 10 years. 10 years in any business, and to have accomplished that is a miracle. But Rob Maraska, obviously, I'm going to get to Chris in a second, but just, you're the last guy. You're the Met guy here. Mets move David Robertson. Mets, I kind of side with Brad here. I think it's a false kind of run here. I think they're just beating up on teams that they should beat. I still don't think much of this team is a serious threat. They haven't been at 500 now, and just about 2 months is when we actually went to YouTube rather than Facebook as our primary outlet here. So I don't really think much of where this team is going. But what do you think this Mets team is going to do between now and Tuesday, and impressions on David Robertson now being a member of the Miami Marlins?
Okay, I want to say one thing quick first to Omen Black. Don't worry about it. I don't take things the wrong way. And you know what? Everything's in fun. So I'm not going to block you or block anybody else. I mean, so.
Well, it's good to hear. It's good to hear. We're happy to hear that. We just want to have fun on Sportzwire.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, last night you knew something was going on with that rain delay because Robertson was up, and then that was it.
Yeah, that's the old. They tell you when he doesn't come back in the dugout. That's the old line where they say, "Well, something's happening."
So they traded him during the rain delay. Listen, you knew it was going to happen. I agree. You know what? It's like I agree somewhat with Justin, and I agree with the brute force. I could go either way right now. They could get him back as a free agent, so he's just a rental.
Yeah, it happens.
But you know what pisses me off the most?
What?
Here's what pisses me off the most: that the Miami Marlins are buyers and the Mets are sellers. That's what pisses me off.
Why not though? They finally good for them. You know what? They're in it. I mean, I know as Met fans were disappointed. I was even hearing the Pinstripe Chronicle guys this week talk about the Mets and the disappointment. But why not if they're the Marlins? Their fan base, deserves a shot, and they made a move. Good for them, I think. No?
Yeah, and they got an 18-year-old shortstop in Marco Vargas. He was ranked 18th in the Marlins organization, and now he becomes ranked 7 in the Mets. So that's what that's.
Well, that tells you that the Mets don't have many prospects, right? That's what it tells you, right?
But and then a 19-year-old catcher in Ronald Hernandez, and now he's ranked 17 for the Mets, who's ranked 21 for the Marlins. But I mean, how many shortstops and catchers do the Mets need?
So
Great.
what,
I
but
mean,
does that tell you that? So does that tell you then that maybe those players are going to be moved in the offseason because we have a catcher already and we have a shortstop? So wouldn't that tell you that?
well, and they just drafted a shortstop also. So
Right.
and you have Lindor who's not going anywhere right now. So what
He
what are
ain't
they
going
going to do?
anywhere ever, I think.
Yeah.
Ever.
So
Pretty
who
much. I
knows
mean,
who's going to be moved, but there's going to be a couple moves. Sam's going to be moved, pretty sure. He's come down a little. He hasn't been what he was,
to
and
be expected. I mean, to be expected.
yeah, of course. Vogelbach, I don't know what's going on with him. Like Brute said, you know what? Why isn't Luke Voigt up here? Just so we have something to watch. He's hitting well in the minor league. So I know Chris is laughing about that one,
It's just funny. It's just fun.
but he's tearing it up. So bring him up. Vogelbach, what's he got on Epler, or what's going on with that guy? He hits a home run, everybody goes wild, but watching him run around the bases, I mean, even when he hits a home run, you gotta laugh.
We were talking about going into today. I think he had 7 home runs and 176 at bats. This is a guy that's supposed to give you, a little bit more pop than that.
Let's remind ourselves that this was supposed to be the power bat that was supposed to be in the middle of the lineup to be behind Alonso, and he's done nothing but have no power, basically. So, just Rob, listen. You know what you want to say, Rob. All right, you don't have to. You know what you want to say, Rob. All right, you want to say that this team is not worth your time. All right, they're not worth. All right, they are not a good team. Okay. And ultimately, he was going to get to Epler, and that's exactly
I
what
guess
we
the
need to
only point, though, is the schedule sort of favors them. They've got the Royals coming up, which we would think pretty much the Mets should win that. Okay,
You sure?
The Royals are a bad baseball team. I was listening to Chris and Patrick.
Horrible.
about the Royals.
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
though,
they are.
the Mets don't make it
By the
easy.
way. But the
I
point
mean,
is,
they
were
did still
talking-
sweep the A's. I mean, as bad as the Mets season's been, they did still sweep the Oakland A's.
I mean, the
And
Royals are bad,
are
Brad. I
not
mean,
as close to the A's as
Tom, if Carlos Carrasco's pitching, they might lose in the first inning. So I'm just telling you, it
Well,
may
he's
not.
pitching
Yeah, but
tomorrow,
this
so
Royals
he's pitching
lineup,
tomorrow,
I mean-
so he wouldn't pitch in the right.
All right, good.
Listen, let's get into a few good things too. July has been better. Senga's looking better. So
Alonso's heated up. Alonso's
Yeah,
coming
he's heating up.
back.
Alonso
Been
looks
good.
like Alonso looks like he's back. But there's going to be more moves. We have to see what happens. I don't know about Scherzer and his comments today after the game. He wasn't too happy about waving the white flag, but really, like Bruce said, he pitches tonight. He pitched good. Definitely pitched an excellent game against Washington, but it's against Washington, and he should. And then what's going to happen next time? He's going to give up 3-4 home runs. That's been the pattern, right? He wins. He pitches a great game, and then he gives up home runs the next 2 games. Who knows? Verlander, he really, I get the feeling he does not want to leave. He enjoys living in New York. I mean, you heard it last night if you watched the game.
Well, he's got a wife that probably wants to be in Manhattan because she's obviously a very attractive woman, and obviously she's been in New York, so she might like it living here. I don't know.
And remember, there's a no trade clause, so who knows what's going to happen and what it's going to take. Would Scherzer go back to the Dodgers? If that comes up, I don't know. He might. Who knows? But do the Dodgers want him?
I don't know.
We got a couple of days to see what's going on, and there's going to be some moves, and we just have to sit back and watch it.
I guess again the defense, and I'm going to get the Yankees take with Chris in a second. Obviously, Yankees were in a big rain delay, and they just resumed about an hour or so ago against the Orioles. But I mean, you got the Royals coming. Okay, you go to Baltimore next week, and that's certainly going to be tough. But then after that, you got the Cubs, who if the Cubs move play, but we don't know yet. That's going to be obviously a series you want to win. You got Pittsburgh that's in a free for all. So I mean, I guess in the immediate schedule, if you were going to take the perspective that just maybe this Mets team could turn it around, maybe that there's a path. I'm still with Brad in the sense.
Hold on, Mr. Optimism. Hold on, because
I didn't say
I'm going to shut you down right away. All right, I'm going to shut you down right
I'm
away.
just saying the
No,
schedule.
number one with the optimism. What's the Mets record against the NL Central this year? It is horrendous, like 4-18. And I don't care if these teams are going to ship off. They haven't been able to beat the Cubs with half their starting lineup out of the lineup. So I ain't excited about that. Okay, number two. All right, who's closing games for the Mets now, and who's coming in who's coming out of the bullpen when we have to hold a lead in any game? I mean, Hart Wiggle's going to come out and shut it down. Trevor Gott, who's been garbage, another terrible move. Okay, I mean, Drew Smith, who's a lightning home run, lighting up every time. I mean, go down the list. Some guy they just brought up who has a 7 ERA in the MLB. I mean, they have no one that you can be excited about in the bullpen, and now you don't have Robertson. Please, they're not going to be consistent because their bullpen's not to be trusted, and their rotation all season hasn't been able to go long. So I can't trust them.
I think the rotation only has been better in the last.
You know what I find very weird, and I'm looking it up because I did hear Howie Rose say this earlier tonight. The home run he gave up to Garcia in the 7th inning tonight for the only national run was only the 4th home run he's given up at Citi Field compared to 19 home runs he's given up away from Citi Field. Now, granted, it's only his 7th start at home compared to 12 starts on the road. Yeah. He's pitched much better at Citi Field. For whatever reason.
Well, he's 9-4.
But you know, we've also seen Kodai Senga with some splits, and so it looks like some of these pitchers are just struggling away from Citi Field, and the Mets pitching has been just better at home.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those interesting things here. And Joe Dell says, preach on Brute. He seems to agree. And I just want to clarify, Brad, I didn't say anything about optimism. I was giving you if you wanted to be optimistic. If you wanted to be, that's what the.
So I couldn't hold it in. I just had.
I see that, but I just wanted.
But you know what? I'm on the optimism side.
On this team the whole season, which
the reason why I am is because
tell me,
just because you guys have so much money invested into this team, right? It's the most money ever spent on any team ever in any North American sport. So, and to raise up the white
embarrassing that they're
no, it is embarrassing. But I think it's even more embarrassing to put the white flag up. I would say, listen, they should have. I've been saying it for weeks. They should have been adding pieces already to this team, adding more bullpen pieces and another bat for the lineup.
Yeah,
and you gotta eventually. These guys have to eventually hit, right? They're not like the Yankees where they're all old players where they're starting to. That's it. They're at the end.
When was the last time the Mets were like within 4 or 5 games of that last wild card spot? They've been pretty much now for even in this better play. They've been no more than 6 back. They've been between 6 and 8 games back the last month, even with the improved play.
Right.
So I'm like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I kind of say, I would say that I don't think they're going anywhere.
And you know what? And here's the other thing: anywhere. The guys that they traded for are guys in like low A ball, so they're not like guys that are.
The 17th, we got 8th, 7th in the
right. They're not exactly going to help you in the next couple of years anyway. You know, like if they traded for a couple of guys in AA or AAA that are ready to come up probably, either at the end of the year or next year, all right, I could kind of understand that move. And you know what? You're talking about, we could get David Robinson back next year. Who cares if you're going to get him back next year? Right? Next year, you're going to have Diaz back as your closer. So all you got to get is pieces for that middle part or the setup. So who cares about David Robinson? And he's going to be, 41 next year? So I don't know if I'd want to sign him. But for me, I'm going for it. With that kind of payroll, you know what? I would hate to put up the white flag. It is embarrassing. It's embarrassing for this team to be as bad as it is, just like the Yankees, too. It's embarrassing because there's so much money involved. But you can't just say, all right, we're selling,
Well, I think the Yankees Yankees, because they're a little bit better than the Mets, I don't think anybody
not much more.
But again, it's a lot more easier to digest when you're 2.5 back, and you know that you've had.
I agree.
You've misjudged for a lot of action, and you know you're going to get him back at some point. And before I'm going to come to you, Chris, back in a second, but Anthony Finkel would like to say I want to give a shout out to Kevin Bruggerman of Hofstra University. And when did you go to Hofstra? You never mentioned you went to Hofstra. I don't recall you ever mentioning Hofstra. Appreciate that, though. For signing a free agent contract with the Los Angeles Angels. Welcome to the show, Slugger, the pride of Long Island. A Brooklyn guy saying the pride of Long Island. That's kind of interesting.
That's right.
Technically, though, although I'm going to actually back it up, technically Brooklyn, Queens, and Long Island are also part of an island. So technically they're all part of the connection. So that actually is kind of the same thing. But, of course, I guess I'll run down some of the other trades here. But the Yankees have played, I guess, kind of like the Mets, somewhat better here of late. They're locked in a scoreless game with the Orioles last I checked in the 5th inning. I see Tampa Bay is up 4-3 over Houston in the bottom of the 9th. But, I mean, we're imagining the Yankees, though, conversely, are going to make some moves to acquire, and they should, I guess, because, again, we've spoken about it here these last couple of weeks. You have Judge waiting in the wings, and we think he's going to come back. So I guess so the point is he was waiting in the wings. So you knew that this team was going to probably have some reasons to make a move. But, I mean, what do you think happens? How do you feel? I mean, Mets and Yankees split. Mets get, again, the obligatory sweep on the Royals. I mean, but I guess does this series with the Orioles determine anything? I mean, what's your thoughts now? And it's kind of a tight race. I mean, the Angels are playing better. Seattle's played a little bit better. Boston, I mean, you and Patrick were talking about
really
Boston
good, yeah.
today. And, I mean, there's some tough teams, but give us your thoughts and where do we go from here with the Bronx Bombers?
Well, it's actually not just this series, not just only this series. You know, you got the next 10 games. You got 3 against Baltimore.
But we got the deadline Tuesday was my point.
Right. And then you got 3 more at home against Tampa and then 4 against the Astros at home as well. So the next 10 games, by August 6th, they could be done by August 6th. If they go anything less than 6-4 in these next 10 games, I think they're going to be done because they're going to be too far back. But like you said, the trade deadline is Tuesday early evening, 6:00.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
they got to figure it out by then. And I don't see them selling. I see them doing a little bit of both, but more buying than selling because I don't think they're going to, put up the white flag like say the Mets are doing. I'm not even saying that because they're not done yet. The Mets. I'm still not sold on them totally putting up the white flag, and I don't think the Yankees are going to totally do that either. But I could see them moving some major pieces. I could see them moving a guy like Severino because he's going to be a free agent, and they got Cortez coming back. He made his second rehab start today. He looked really good, So I could see moving him because they do need a left fielder. I mean, I don't care, Judge, that's great, but they still need a left fielder, and this has been going on since last year. So Cashman.
Yeah, we spoke about this a lot on Sportswire. Yep, we spoke a lot about
it's been a major fail. And third base as a whole, too, because of Josh Donaldson. It's just been a mess. Catcher, they've gotten nothing from the catcher position. And then you got the aging guys that have done nothing, like Rizzo, Stanton, DJ. They've just been
Yeah, I was listening to MLB radio yesterday, and I guess it was Steve Phillips and Xavier Scruggs, and they were talking about, well, maybe Rizzo's starting to come out of it a little bit now. Maybe that's your kind of hope, that Rizzo hits a home run finally a few days ago. Maybe you're starting to see signs with him. Maybe that's your hope. If you get Judge in the lineup, he sees more pitches. I mean, you buy into that
maybe.
at all?
It's a possibility. I mean, he had the 4-for-4 day, but that was, like you mentioned before, that was against Kansas City. So I wasn't totally like, oh, he's back, But he did get a base hit tonight against Baltimore. So you never know. I mean, I can't see all 3 totally falling off a cliff at the same time, but it just makes no sense because one guy, meaning Aaron Judge, should not make this whole team. I mean, even if he goes down, you still got guys on this team. It's too high of a payroll to be, based on one player, right? It shouldn't be like do or die because of one player. So I'm expecting these guys to get back, into hitting a little bit more than what they are. I'm not expecting Stanton to be MVP that he was when we first got him, but
yep.
Rizzo's got to be better than what he's doing. DJ, I mean, we got him for 3 more years, so I'm crossing my fingers.
The LeMahieu one, I don't get why he struggled. I mean, he was a guy that was really one of the better hitters in baseball for a few years. I just don't.
And he's been bad since last year too. So maybe he's finally done. I don't know, but we do have him for 3 more years, so we got to deal with it. So
but on
hopefully,
positive, Carlos Rodon looked really good.
Yeah, no, that was huge. And you know what? You got to remember, the guy didn't have any. He didn't have a spring training. He only had 3 rehab starts, so that was only his 4th start that he had after his 3 rehab starts. So, I think he'll be fine. I'm not worried about Rodon. The big thing is the offense has to score runs. It's as simple as that. I mean, you can't. You're not gonna win many games scoring 2 or 3 runs. I think they've been averaging 3 points something since Judge went out. You're not going to win many games that way because you're putting too much pressure on your rotation and your bullpen. And the bullpen is showing cracks. They have not pitched well the last week or so because I think they would just been overused.
I don't know if it was you were speaking about, or maybe it was the Pinstripe Chronicles, because I've listened to both of you guys this week as we play him on Sportswire, and it seems to me as if like this Yankee bullpen just, routinely overworked. I think. Now, maybe it was the Pinstripe Chronicle guys. I don't remember if you and Patrick brought
it. Might have been. You know what? Just look at the starts. Yeah, outside of Cole, giving you 6 innings. These other guys give you 4 or 5 innings.
Herman struggled since the perfect game. We spoke about that. He's not been the same. Severino we spoke about. These guys, it's all been just. It has not been consistent the entire season.
For me, the bigger problem is the analytics saying, all right, after 100 pitches, that's it. You got to take the guy out. I think a guy like Garrett Cole could throw more than 100 pitches.
Well, you and Rob Rasta probably saw the days of 200 pitches. And they said,
you're paying this guy $30-something million. He should be able to go 120 pitches. Let him pitch into the 6th, 7th, 8th inning. That's what he's getting paid for. I don't get it. I could see if a guy coming back from an injury, right? You want to nurse him back or whatever, but these other guys are young. Schmidt, let him, let him at least keep going until he really starts to look tired, where he does start getting hit. But, but that's what happens. Your bullpen is just going to get overused like the Yankees bullpen is. And the bullpen is their strength, is like their backbone.
Yeah, the bullpen, we've obviously seen historically, but even since Mariano left, the bullpen's usually been almost locked down. We spoke about it last year. And the Yankee bullpen, when they had that almost historic start for the first half of the season, the bullpen was like done with.
Always,
automatic. And it's just kind of, I don't know, but I still kind of think obviously Yankees and the Orioles are in the top of the 6th now, and Cole has pitched very well. And I kind of think here, though, that you're still going to make a move. You're obviously going to see here as Judge is up at plate here.
I think they're going to add definitely they're going to add. I would think they're going to add a left fielder for sure because we have nothing out there right now. So they got to add a left fielder. Probably, we're talking about the bullpen being overused. I'm sure they're going to add a bullpen piece. With Cortez coming back, they don't need a starter. They need more bullpen pieces if they can. 1 or 2, and obviously left fielder, maybe even a catcher, because we lost Trevino now for the year. Not that Trevino was anything offensively.
No way. No.
But defensively, he's one of the best back there. So I could see them adding a catcher as well.
Hey, Chris, you want Starling Marte and Omar Narvaez? We'll give them to you.
No, we're good. We're good. We're good.
Sure, come on.
No, yeah, we have we have our crappy left fielder already, or whatever you want to call him.
And
we're not going to pay the rest of that Marte contract either.
Judge,
I don't want.
By the way,
no. Unless you want Stanton's contract, you could have that.
Well, that's going to be one for the ages here. Now, I'm going to come back to the Yankees in a second, but Anthony Finkel wants to remind me he got his associates at Kingsborough. I knew the Kingsborough part. I definitely did know that. I didn't remember the Hofstra part. Listen. How many people do I talk to in a day? I don't remember people's, college education. It's nothing personal. Anthony Finkel, is the man. Love Anthony Finkel. He knows that, but I just didn't remember. NYU, I remembered because obviously Steven Saperstein went to NYU, so a lot of us have some NYU connections there. Stanton and Judge or Drake. So I think, Chris, you mentioned that actually. I heard you talk about Judge at the concert. We're kind of talking about
somebody was complaining, he's doing all that walking on his toes. Shouldn't he be home? I'm like, he's walking. What's the problem? Who cares?
I guess it's the old adage. Well, was it years ago when Aaron Boone was playing basketball in the off season and broke his leg? And I guess people feel like, well, if you're doing something not team related, I guess. But look, if they're there. You're not going to control them, and we'll take Nimmo. But the Mets just signed Nimmo to a long-term contract. I don't think they're going to do Nimmo for Stanton here. But uh, Brad, I did want to ask you. I want to go back to you for a second when it came to the Yankees, and obviously, something that I think Chris brought up that I thought was kind of interesting here, where Judge comes back, and it's one player that almost you're counting on. Maybe that makes a difference in a team. Now, obviously, at St. Joe's, we didn't quite have that success. We had Frank Basile, but it didn't necessarily mean we won games. But the first year, maybe you could say with Fernando Vasquez and Andy Laurent, maybe that was the case that kind of kickstarted us into the postseason. But does it make that much of a difference? One guy comes in and it can all of a sudden kind of kickstart a team, because this Yankee team offensively, I mean, it has been like anemic. We talk about the Met lineup all the time, but I mean, Chris gave us the numbers since Judge has been out, which has been several weeks now. They're scoring less than 4 runs a game. And Rizzo, we spoke about, who's done next to nothing up until recently. LeMahieu's been a big disaster. Donaldson, let's not even bring his name up. So it's basically, and Stanton, again, we just spoke about him as well. I mean, does it make that much of a difference where one guy can all of a sudden just propel this Yankees team? Because that's, to me, kind of the difference, I think, here with the Mets compared with the Yankees. If the Yankees are getting Judge back, you just got Rodon. He pitches really well. Maybe you look at it and say, you know what? I take that optimistic tone, unlike with the Mets. I mean, what do you say about that? Because you've been in those shoes as a player, and talk to me about all that.
Well, first of all, I'll answer this question in multiple facets. So first of all, to answer the main base of the question, can Aaron Judge lift the team and kind of, be that spark for them? Yeah, I do think he can. But with that being said, based on the sample size and what we've seen this season from the Yankees, and like Chris said, the anemic performance from a lot of players, I don't know if I could believe Aaron Judge is going to do enough to push this team over the top. Because there's just a lot of problems. And Tom, you mentioned it. Sometimes, if you're talking about like younger players that you could see potential in, and Judge comes back and that kind of lifts them up. These are a lot of veteran players that have been around the game for a while. You're talking about Donaldson, LeMahieu, Rizzo. These are guys that shouldn't need, or nor should I trust to basically say that Aaron Judge is going to be the reason why they start turning it around. They are veterans. They've been in the league for a long time. They've had a track record. So for me, I get the point, and I do think Aaron Judge will come back and help the team. But ultimately, he can't carry a team that's struggling this badly offensively. And again, if this were younger, prospering players that maybe weren't, doing that well and had the ability to do better, I think I'd have a different stance. But I think the fact that there's so many veterans, so many guys underperforming based on what they've done in the past and showing their age and attrition and all that. I mean, I just don't think that they're going to be able to turn around with Judge. I think Judge will provide an impact and keep them above water, meaning over 500 and in the race. But do I see them, going out there and going on a big tear? I don't know. And I think Chris brings up a lot of good points.
10-game schedule coming up. You got Houston, which the Yankees always have fits with. Tampa, which obviously has struggled mightily in July also.
Yeah, these are tough teams. And like Chris said, I mean, the strength is the bullpen, but you put so much work and tax on them that at this point, I mean, now you're saying, all right, well, you guys got to go out there and continue to perform and continue to be worked hard, but now you're going to get some tougher opponents. These are not the Kansas City Royals that they're playing. I mean, that's why I'm going to say, listen, to those people saying the Yankees are playing well, you should be ashamed of yourself. How can you say they're playing well? I mean, they beat Kansas City 3 times, and it wasn't like they were convincingly beating them or anything like that. They came off a bad series against the Angels. They did okay against the Mets. I mean, they didn't do anything amazing. So, I'm not the one either who's going to provide optimism on the Yankees. Yes, it's nice that the Judge is back, but at the same time, let me see some of these veterans start to play better. I don't think that the veteran players, that's the key here. I don't think the veteran players that have been around are going to be lifted by Judge. I think Judge will help lift the team, but I don't think the veteran players will lift their play for Judge being back on the team.
Now, I sort of agree. Now, I'll let Justin and Rob take a crack at it before I get into some of the other trades here. But, I mean, he has 19 home runs in only 49 games. So if he plays to that level, I mean, Rob had made the point last week, well, he comes back, there's enough games, they're over 500, whereas with the Mets, I mean, I kind of tend to incline to agree with you, Brad. They haven't been over 500 in 2 months, and they haven't even been within like 4 games of a wild card spot in a while. But the Yankees still, I mean, they are right there. They do control their own destiny.
And, the one thing with the Yankees that I can say that I can't say about the Mets is that there's a unit that you have a lot of confidence in, and that is the bullpen. Is there a unit on the Mets that you're really confident in or feel good about? I mean, to me, there's not. I mean, there's not a unit that you feel.
I think that the Mets team has a lot of flaws. I think the Yankees, you theoretically, again, Judge comes back. Maybe it helps lift other guys that have done nothing in the lineup. Rodon comes back. You got Cortez. You got Cole. Maybe you got a shot. But, for you, Justin or Rob, I mean, how do you feel about this Yankees team going into the deadline? We have one more series left really before Tuesday. Does it matter? Do the Yankees are going to be definite buyers? You guys have a thought on that before we move on?
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to add some pieces here. Obviously, getting Judge back tonight. I mean, not exactly the biggest spark in the world because it's 0-0 in the sixth inning. But it's still definitely a jolt to this team. Getting your MVP back. And I had said, August 15th to me was the target date. If he could get back by August 15th, I think there's enough time for him not only to come back, but to get into form and really help carry this Yankee lineup, because this Yankee lineup needs a lot of carrying.
Oh, it's terrible.
I mean, you see another weak ground out by Anthony Rizzo to end the sixth inning after Judge draws a walk. Giancarlo Stanton, for the most part, has been an absolute zero. We talked about the nothing that's been, DJ LeMahieu for the most part. They're going to upgrade. They're going to get a left fielder. Who knows what that outfielder is. Like we talked about, the Cubs keep on winning. They beat the Cardinals tonight.
I was about to say they just won today. I mean, what a catch you had.
A miraculous game and home run saving catch by Mike Tauchman, the former Yankee.
And they get to 500 now, right? Are the Cubs at 500 now?
The Cubs are 52-51 now. Mm-hmm. So I think 3.5 back.
Boy, that's really tantalizingly close.
Yeah, I don't see them selling.
I think they're going to postpone the selling. Are we looking at maybe a Randall Grichuk from Colorado?
Colorado, I think Chris and Patrick were talking about is one of those teams that, like, I mean, the record's better than, say, a Royals, but it's almost like maybe you move.
I don't know what they're doing in Colorado. I'll be honest.
They're always in a confusing spot.
Reminds me of the Anthrax song "Perpetual Motion." The Colorado Rockies are always
perpetual garbage.
Yes, but that was not a song. It was from Psalm 442, and it was Perpetual Motion.
Remember I said Griffith and Ryan McMahon. That's who I would have went for.
That's what I heard you'd say.
I remember a couple years ago, they were a very bad team and not in the race, yet they chose not to trade Trevor Story.
Right.
They've usually opted not to choose to trade their players. So I don't know if the Rockies are going to be a destination team to talk to about acquiring a left fielder. Would Mark Canha or Tommy Pham be a fit for the Yankees? I mean, obviously in left field, of course. But overall, I don't know what with Bellinger potentially coming, being off the trade board. I don't know where they're going to go because he's obviously the number one bat.
Yeah, 3.5 back right now. The Mets are 6.5. Padres 6.5.
And to be honest, even if I could still maybe entice the Cubs if I'm the Yankees, maybe I still try to see if they could pry away Bellinger because you know what kind of defensive outfield that turns into.
It's huge, but I just don't see Chicago trading.
You would move Harrison Bader to left field because Cody Bellinger to me is the best center fielder, one of the best defensive center fielders in all of baseball. You're not taking him out for center field, and you could have Bader, you could have Bellinger, and with the range Bellinger covers, that really could ease Judge back in right field. It really could. With the ground he no longer has to cover. I just don't know where else they're going to turn, but I think that's going to be their main level of focus is finding a left fielder. I mean, maybe another pitcher. You can never have enough relievers.
Yeah.
Could they go for a starter with some of the back end questions? Maybe. But ultimately, their focus is going to be on a bat.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm also watching here the Cincinnati Reds and the Los Angeles Dodgers are playing. It looks like here the Dodgers have now got on the board 3-1 there. Reds, another team that's in the mix here, and they've
By the
played
way,
a lot
3-year
better.
contract extension for manager David Bell.
Well, what a story the Reds have been. I remember it was
Mhm.
last year we were kind of killing the Reds as a joke and an embarrassment and how far they've fallen, and yet here they are right now in
A
a
lot
wild
of
card spot.
incredible young talent. One of the kids that they just called up, if you remember, they traded Tyler Malley to the I believe it was the Twins last year, and one of the guys that they got back was Christian Encarnacion Strand,
Yep.
and he just got called up. Obviously, we know about Ellie De La Cruz, some of the other young guys that the
Matt McClain just came
Reds
up,
have had.
right?
Yeah,
He's been great.
yeah. I mean, they're loaded with some young talent. You know,
And they could still win the Central. I mean, Milwaukee and Cincinnati still are separated by a couple games.
And think about it. Hunter Green's been out, right, for the past,
for a
month
while,
or two?
Yeah.
And another, I don't remember if it was the same trade or if it was a different trade, but they also acquired Spencer Steer last year
Mhm.
In one of their sell-off trades. And those guys are paying immediate dividends towards this Reds roster.
And we haven't seen the guys they got from Seattle, right? Wasn't it Marte, the shortstop, I think?
Yep.
They got from him. They got like 3 top 5 prospects from Seattle.
Yes, they did. And
right, so we haven't
those
seen
guys
those
aren't quite up at the major league
Seattle,
level
we
yet.
spoke about. I remember we spoke about that trade because it happened, I think, on the air on the Sportswire last year. We were like, well, Seattle's desperate. They got to make the playoffs, and they would do anything. And well, that's what they definitely did here. And also here, scores of note. We have the Twins and Royals tied at 4. We also have Mariners 4. Speaking of teams trying to figure out where they go, 4-0 over the Diamondbacks, half a game out of the wild card. Athletics and those Rockies. It's actually Oakland 7, Colorado 2,
Oof.
bottom of the 8th.
Those tickets were probably $5 to get in.
Well, you know what? I mean, well, it's in Colorado today, but if it was in Oakland, yeah, for sure, $5. I would definitely say we could all go for that. Padres, a team I was hearing them quite a bit during the week, and kind of what we talked about here on Sportswire. What are they going to do? They're up 2-0 right now over the Rangers. Red Sox 1, Giants 0, and now going into the 5th, Rays beat the Astros 4-3. Rays have had a terrible month though. Braves 10, Brewers 7. So Reds could pick up some ground here in that division. And the Philadelphia Phillies, your beloved Philadelphia Phillies, Brad Weiss, 2-1 over the Pirates. And the Phillies, to me, again, kind of having an interesting season. They're the team I almost wouldn't want any part of in the postseason because they've got all these bats, all these guys, and they really haven't, I guess, come together. But yet here they are, kind of where they were last year in a sense. The Marlins get a win over the Tigers 6-5. So maybe the Marlins are on an uptick, and maybe you kind of feel that way. But we are on Sportswire Radio, speaking all things related here to the world of Major League Baseball and more. For my guys, that is Justin Gianelli, Chris Pizzay of the Liftoff Jets and the Talking Rivals. Heard the Talking Rivals, a little bit of it here before we went on the air. Also, Rob Maraska and the brute force Brad Weiss, who I've seen the second time this past week as we spoke with Malloy Lions men's basketball assistant coach Jason Gaudieso. And I know, Brad, we'll be seeing each other in a couple of weeks for another spot with a basketball player, an up-and-coming one, a young gentleman that you think I know pretty well, Brad, and I know you know very well. And we'll have to find out that person's name. I'm sure they know who they are. But my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. And if you're on sportnarium.com/player, I thank you. And always stay tuned in with us. We're on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We play podcasts from all over the world. We play music from time to time. We stream all these shows if you don't want to see the video versions. And also, we're on YouTube at Sportswire Radio. Got a lot of new subscribers over the past 30 days. I think something like 40-something subscribers this month alone since we pushed YouTube. I think in the last 2 months, I think it's close to about 100. So I thank all the new subscribers. I think we've had almost as many subscribers in like 3 years of Sportswire's history just in the last 2 months alone. So it seems to be working pretty well just being on YouTube. But in the meantime, we're talking all things related here to the world of Major League Baseball. And Twins, just to know, took the lead over the Royals 5-4. And I'm going to move on to some of the other trades of note. We had a couple recently with the Dodgers made, but Rob Maraska, any thoughts on the Yankees? A thought or two on them, what they do, or anything on that?
The guy said it all. Judge is back before the deadline that Justin gave him. So I still feel like the Yankees go the way Judge goes, even though he's not the whole team. The Yankees, see, the Mets the Mets pitching staff is old, but the Yankees are old. But the Yankees have that bullpen, and I said it last week. I don't think the Yankees are out of it. I think the Yankees have a chance, so I'm not counting the Yankees out of it. These maybe Judge coming back, and if he can stay healthy. I mean, he's last year MVP season. The home run record, gets a great, a big contract, and then what happens this year? He's back.
It always happens that way in sports.
Yeah.
Guys get the big contracts, and all of a sudden they get hurt. It just happens, whether it's in the NBA, Major League Baseball, the NHL, the NFL. It always seems to be that way.
But I said, I said last week, the Yankees, don't count the Yankees out. And another thing I wanted to say, real quick, that clip you posted for the Gary Sanchez thing, last night, that got almost 4,700 views. So that was a good clip that you put out.
Well, sometimes it's luck of the draw. I mean, sometimes with these engagements, it's just luck of the draw, and you put the right word in, you put the right thing, and that does go that way. And I have a couple more comments here. Anthony Finkel says, "I'm the man." We'll have to see. He likes the Cooperstown shirt. Obviously, Cooperstown inductees just happened. Scott Rowland and Fred McGriff getting into the Hall of Fame, something that we spoke quite a bit on Sportswire in the past. I thought it was funny hearing Fred McGriff and how he got the call about the Hall of Fame. I thought that was kind of a funny story. If anybody caught that when he was getting inducted, thought that was kind of funny. Scott Rowland, again, I heard so many different opinions about Scott Rowland and the very good Hall of Fame, but I mean, he is in, so congratulations. Sportswire is the best shows on the planet. Well, we do have some great shows, and the Talking Rivals, the Liftoff Jets, the Baseball Banter, Devil's State of Mind. We do a lot of wrestling also. The flagship show. So yeah, definitely I appreciate all the support, a lot of new subscribers, and I think it's going to only continue. And Rob says the Yankees are still in. You can bring it to the bank. Yeah, I mean, they're in. I mean, they're definitely in. I mean, you can't say that they're not. But I guess I want to ask you, Chris, one more question, the Yankees, and I was thinking about this before we went in the air, and tell me your thoughts. I almost feel in some ways, though, it is disappointing with this team because I looked at Tampa Bay, right, in this month of July, and Tampa Bay came back to earth. We spoke, if I recall correctly, early in the season when they got off to the 13-0 start, they got off to whether it was 17-1, whatever it was, and they were steamrolling everybody. They got off to, I think they were like 19 games over 500 in the first maybe month and a half of the season. But they've come back to earth. And, if you looked at if the Yankees would have played even a couple of games better, right? I think about the series against the Cardinals, the Rockies, the Angels. And instead of maybe thinking about a wild card, the Yankees had an opportunity, I think, to even still be alive in the AL East. I mean, what's your thoughts on some of that? Because I kind of do think that there was an opportunity for the Yankees to kind of, because of Tampa's poor play really in this month, that if they would have played a little bit better, we could be talking about a division rather than maybe a third wild card.
Well, where they had the chance was a couple of weeks ago when the Orioles came into town,
July 4th weekend, right?
We won the first two games and cut the lead down to 2 games to Baltimore, and then Baltimore won the next 2, so it went back to 4 games, and then that was the start of the
kind of tailspin.
Yeah, so they went on the West Coast. They lost to who was it? The Angels.
Swept by the Angels. Cardinals 2 out of 3. Rockies 2
Rockies.
And then the Rockies too. You can't lose those.
Against the Rockies, I think, also in that series. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you can't lose those games. You just can't. I mean, if you want to make the playoffs, you can't lose to those teams. So that's why we are where we are right now. So I forget about the division. That's out. Maybe they could still get into the playoff. I still think they can. Obviously, they're only 2 games out. If they get,
I think they can still get into the playoffs. But my point was generally because if you look at it, everybody in the AL East, despite the Yankees being in last place, are only 8 games out of first place. So I was kind of thinking about this. I wanted to ask you this. I'm glad I remembered because, we just ran over the Yankees schedule the last couple of weeks, and because of Tampa's really poor play this month, Yankees could have actually did themselves a bigger solid and maybe only been 4 or 5 games back, even hypothetically, and. You're talking about a totally different race almost in that sense.
Oh, absolutely. And you could even look back to the Mets, right? The Mets had that horrible stretch against like what Brad brought up about
7
the
and
schedule.
19 in June. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Before
you lose
18
to
and
teams
17,
that you gotta win. You gotta beat these teams. You're gonna you hope
Milwaukee,
to split.
St.
Yeah,
Louis,
I get
Chicago,
the tougher
Pittsburgh.
teams. You can have a rough time with. Maybe you split with them, but the teams that you gotta win against, you gotta beat them. You can't lose 2 out of 3 like the Yankees. 2 out of 3 to Colorado, getting swept by the Angels. Not that the Angels are that bad now, but at that time, you know what?
Yeah,
You
but
got to
even the
take 2 out of 3
Angels, I
against
mean,
them.
and they lost today against Toronto. It's a big series for them. I mean, I don't know if I'm that sold on them. I just thought it was a
I think they
interesting.
need, you know what? I think they need to add a couple more pieces to the bullpen. You got Trout coming back in a couple of weeks. Later on in August, you got Ohapi coming back, the catcher. You know, the shortstops are a little banged up. So you add all these pieces back. These guys can make the run. You know,
And
I like it.
not to mention, based off of 2023 numbers, they got one of the best closers in baseball. You know,
Right,
Carlos
the back end,
Estevez has
they're
been
good.
tremendous for them at the back end of the bullpen.
Yeah.
You know, Aaron Loop's been okay. You know, Jacob Webb's had some decent outing.
Right.
If you add some more pieces,
Yeah.
you know, obviously you're adding Ronaldo Lopez to the back end of that bullpen as well. But you add some more pieces to that Angel bullpen, all of a sudden they look formidable because their lineup
Right.
is really good. And you know, you mentioned
Yeah, it is what it
you know,
is.
Zach Neto has been very good for them. You know, I think he's more of a day-to-day situation. You know, obviously it's unspeakable how good Otani is. And how about the development of Mickey Moniak? You know, here's a guy just tossed in a trade, a former number 1 overall pick. Guy just tossed in a trade.
The guy's hitting
Angels,
what, like
when the Angels
330
sent
going
Noah
into today or
Syndergaard to
something like
Brooklyn.
that.
You know, and you know, he wasn't great last year for the Angels, but he's really developed into this great player and really a backup center field option. You know, even though he's been starting in left field, you know, Taylor Ward's been pretty solid. Hunter Renfro's provided some power. Mustakas, you know, Eduardo Escobar's been pretty good of late. So it's really covered for a lot of their injuries this
The
year.
veteran
And,
guys, veteran guys like
Yeah.
Mustakas, Escobar, predictably, right, Brad? Escobar starts to hit for the
a couple
Angels.
days ago, it's his first Angels home run. You know, and obviously they got the albatross of a contract and Anthony Rendon at third base. But why not roll with Eduardo Escobar at third base? You're gonna put Moniak in left field in a couple weeks when Trout comes back, and then you got an outfield of Moniak, Trout, Renfro, which provides a ton of power. Now, one of the mystifying things is what's happened to Jared Walsh. I mean, dude fell off the face of the earth. But obviously,
Is he
And
even
he was-
batting
he
a?
was
Is he even
DFA'd.
batting a?
Well, wasn't he just DFA'd?
Yeah, he was. What happened?
Was
to
he
him?
even hitting 100?
Barely. He was like 120. And the Angels
Hey.
DFA him. Obviously, Mike Moustakas has taken the bulk of the playing time at first base.
But he's hit well for them. He's
and obviously,
had some big home runs for him.
Brandon Drury's on the men too. He should
They got a
be coming
nice
up.
little lineup. They got a nice.
good
they
Yeah,
got
the
offense.
lineup was good.
They add to the pitching. You know, Giolito was okay tonight in his Angels debut. The rotation's been nice. I'd like to see Canning and Sandoval be a little bit more consistent, but overall they've been okay. To me, the Angels are dangerous. They really are. And
They are.
you know what? Hats off to Artie Moreno for not just saying we're going to keep Otani, but going all in and saying, all right, we're going to bring in 2 pieces. We are buying, and now instead of having a complete 0% chance of re-signing Shohei Otani in the offseason, now they've given themselves a fighter's chance.
I mean,
if this team could make some kind of a run, you've bumped it up to 15 to 20%. Now you might actually
you could still say, and I'll move on here in a second, that the Cubs and Angels were teams that everybody said they're selling, and the Cubs have probably put themselves in a position where they at the very least have to stand pat. Then you got the Angels who've obviously gone in here, so that's what a difference a week can make. And I guess, Brad, going back to the Mets, that kind of the Mets still haven't had that moment. That's why I think you're not sold, and a lot of fans aren't either, and that's why they are where they are. And I want to say
able to back up. They weren't able to back up the 6-game winning streak they had against Arizona, and the first game against San Diego.
Then they wound up losing 4 in a row.
Games of the series prior,
right?
They won 6 in a row.
2 against the Padres, then the first 2 at home against the Dodgers. So you lost that momentum. So basically, if you would have won even,
and the Mets have been like a 500 team. They're like I think now with the Nationals wins, I think they're now like 6-4 or something since the All-Star break. obviously not good enough. They need to be 8-2, 9-1.
Exactly. I think that
And
was
they just
actually
weren't.
something we spoke about on Sportswire. That was the line we gave, and they haven't done that. But I do want to say hello to the man behind the Pro Zone Gaming Division. We do a little bit of work with them on Sportswire, Mr. Big Snoop. Yes, they do a great job in helping out professional game streamers. A lot of streamers out there that do some great things. We've got a chance to speak with a number of them. Watch Me Work, who does some stuff with NBA 2K. Tamika Denise, also Tamika does a great job out there. Veteran, poet, musician, also does some game streaming. The Pro Zone Gaming Division really has been one of our biggest champions on Sportswire. I'd like to plug them. You can support them on Instagram. You can also support them on YouTube. You can do that at Prozone GD. That is Prozone GD on Instagram and Twitter. Hashtag PZGD. They're also accepting sponsored gamers. They're on Discord. They're on Twitch. They've got a lot of great content there. And Mr. Big Snoop is always playing something with NBA 2K23. You see a lot of the gamers out there, always just so many of them. I mean, we had Ty Deuce, obviously, Watch Me Work, Tamika. I mean, there's just so many of them that they all do a phenomenal job. And I look forward to also doing more with them here. And we also have a YouTube channel for the Pro Zone Gaming Division where you can find out exclusive videos, giveaways, and more. There's always something for everyone, from exciting plays to the interviews with top gamers of the week. And I think we're on some of those interviews. So I appreciate that stuff. And we're also always looking for contenters, streamers, and gamers. So let's make sure we support our friends over at the Pro Zone Gaming Division, Pro Zone GD, Instagram, and Twitter. So let's talk about the trade deadline in a second here as we move on here for the next 20 or 30 or so minutes here on Sportswire. And we spoke about the Angels making some moves, but conversely, guys, the Los Angeles Dodgers made some moves, and I see that some old friends were traded from each other here. And Rob, what did you think of that here? I saw Noah Syndergaard for Ahmed Rosario. I mean, I'm sure Brad had to take a double take on that, but the Los Angeles Dodgers are definitely in. And what did you think about that? Noah Syndergaard for Ahmed Rosario.
Well, Rosario wasn't having that great a season for Cleveland, but I think the Dodgers are the winners in that trade. I mean, it still has to be seen, but Syndergaard is he's a disaster. He's blaming everybody else now for his pitching problems, but not the Mets, actually. The Phillies, the Angels, the Dodgers. He's blaming coaches. He's blaming everybody but himself. You know what? He may be done. He may be like Matt Harvey. Just think of that Mets pitching staff.
Yep.
What's happened to that pitching staff?
DeGrom, Syndergaard, Matt. I mean, they all Harvey.
Yeah, so I think that might rejuvenate Rosario. He may help the Dodgers. So I think the Dodgers are right now they have the upper hand in that trade because
and also they got today Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly from the White Sox teams that definitely waved the white flag if there ever was one.
Yeah. I mean, and it just shows us once again that the Dodgers are going for it, and that's what we want to see. We should have, like Chris said before, the Mets should have made some moves earlier, and they should have done something. Okay, they waited too long, and now they have to be sellers. Just look at the Dodgers. Every year, the Dodgers do what they have to do to try to go far in the playoffs, okay? And that's what the New York Mets have to start doing.
Well, it doesn't look like.
But the thing is with the Dodgers, every year, no matter how many injuries they suffer, I mean, look at their rotation. Everybody has gotten hurt, right? Kershaw's out. We still haven't seen Buehler yet. Urias missed time. All these guys get hurt. Dustin May is nowhere to be seen. All these guys get hurt. They're still 10, 15 games over 500.
You're right.
And guess what? They're leading the NL West again. Guess what? They're going to win the West again. And you know what? It's Noah Syndergaard's fault that he didn't work out in L.A. Because if you've noticed the recent trend in L.A., L.A. has basically been like a pitching lab where Mark Pryor basically fixes guys. Tyler Anderson
it's a good ballpark. It's always
career years for the L.A. Dodgers under Mark Pryor. You're telling me that he couldn't fix Noah Syndergaard? That's on Noah Syndergaard. I have a firm belief that Lance Lynn will turn things around with the LA Dodgers. Joe Kelly, take it or leave it. He's such a hit or miss. kind of guy. But they bring him back.
But maybe you go into a better environment. Maybe you get motivated. Guys, sometimes there's an old adage that sometimes you kind of go and play, or you are a part of your productive environment, as they would call it. So
for sure. I mean, look, and Rosario has a double tonight so far for the Dodgers. He got his first hit. But and Dave Roberts says he's going to play all over the place. He can play a little outfield, play some second base. Because one of the big issues he had in Cleveland was his defense at shortstop, and obviously, they got both Andres Jimenez and Ahmed Rosario in that Francisco Lindor trade, and and obviously Jimenez is going to be the guy that they're going to roll with at shortstop, and but when Rosario was there, he just wasn't good enough, and I think the Dodgers defensively are going to try to work with him on the positional versatility. I mean, you see Mookie Betts play shortstop, play second base, play right field, right? You see Chris Taylor play all over the place. You see Max Muncy played a few different positions. So, I mean, the Dodgers are very, very strong on having positional versatility, and I think they're going to work with him, and I think Rosario is going to have a nice, solid contribution towards the Dodgers.
And maybe you could say, conversely, maybe Syndergaard going to Cleveland. They're still very much in the race, and the Royals actually come back, get a grand slam, and beat the Twins. So, Brad, maybe to your point, the Royals won't be such an easy one for the Mets because the Royals come back and beat the Twins, and maybe Syndergaard goes to Cleveland, and maybe he figures it out a little bit.
The question is, when's he going to pitch again? He's been on the IL with a blister for the past 2 months. Yeah. Nobody misses 2 months with the blister. Come on.
But maybe he goes to Cleveland in an environment that's certainly not going to have the type of attention, which is kind of why I was going to bring it over to you, Brad, because, again, kind of asking you in a different take, and I'll go over a few other trades. Obviously, I'm sure we'll have a lot more trades to talk about on next week's show. But, I mean, if you think about it, Syndergaard hasn't worked out since he's left the Mets. He's obviously not done himself favors. The injuries have piled up a bit. The stats, I don't know if I'm quite ready to say he's a Matt Harvey, because I still think he's got some chances. I don't think he's been nowhere near has been that much of a problem on the field and off the field, but he's definitely done himself some favors. But, I mean, does a guy like Syndergaard maybe goes to a smaller market, a team, if he comes back, which we think he would come back, because I would imagine Cleveland wouldn't take him back if they didn't think he was going to pitch. But, I mean, do you think maybe it's a change of scenery helps, conversely, for somebody like this that, again, hasn't had the success that certainly we would have thought as a Met or since he's left as a Met?
Yeah, well, let me take this a few angles here. Number one, the Cleveland Guardians should be ashamed of themselves. They are fools. They are dumb. Okay, and this is a horrendous, embarrassing move on their part.
Why is it embarrassing if you take somebody back? You need pitching help. You're still very much alive in the division. If he can help you, why is that an embarrassment?
Tom Bryce, let me take this. Let me take this down. All right, number one, change of scenery. I get it, and I do know that this is something that happens, and for a lot of players, right? They can get a change of scenery and can do better. With that being said, we brought up a guy by the name of Matt Harvey. And I think when we saw Matt Harvey bumping around from Baltimore to Kansas City, all these different small markets, okay, he didn't necessarily get a bump or a boost because he was going down the drain and digressing, okay, not progressing. Right. So Noah Syndergaard, ladies and gentlemen, is degressing, okay? He is not a good pitcher anymore.
I'm not ready to say to the level that Matt Harvey was. I mean, Matt Harvey...
It's coming. It's coming. I'm going to say it right now. It's coming. I mean, what has he shown you to prove that wrong? I mean, his velocity is not the same. His control is horrible. His pitch selection is horrible. I think it's just about everything's horrible. So what tells you, right, as the Cleveland Guardians, that this guy is going to come in there and be able to give you solid innings? I mean, I honestly don't know what you're thinking. This guy is not what has he shown you? All right, we can resurrect him. What does he have? Like, we could do this to help fix him.
It's one of those moves for a team that doesn't want to spend a lot of money, that's still very much because they're in an awfully weak division, that says, we're still competitive. We don't want to sell fully. Let's bring a guy in who's got a bit of a name. Maybe he's motivated, change of scenery, pitches well enough that they could still beat the Twins in the division, because the Twins just lost to the Royals today, and nobody's ever going to be convinced that the Twins are going to win this division.
I mean, I guess you want to use the word motivated. All right, we'll have to see about that. But ultimately,
I speak with guys all the time in all different facts. I speak to wrestlers all the time. I speak to.
I get that. I get that, and I get that. But at the same time, Rob Maraska brings up the point. Listen, I've been dealing with crying, complaining kids all week, and I know the kids that complain and that whine and are not really focused.
You have probably had players and kids whine about some of the things you said on Monday's show with Gordiesso, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, of course. But listen, he's whining, complaining, blaming everybody else. I don't think that constitutes being focused and being very motivated. So, again, I am not a supporter of this trade. To me, the LA Dodgers fleeced the Guardians. It's a horrible move for the Guardians. Noah Syndergaard has shown nothing to make you believe in him. And to me, again, I understand where you're coming from, Tom. Small market guy has had a name, has been. You want to try to resurrect him. He has nothing to be resurrected, though. He's been to different spots. He's just gotten worse. Again, the same thing with Matt Harvey. He went one place, he was bad. He went to the next place, he was worse. He went back to the next place, he was worse.
Wow.
Noah Syndergaard is doing the same thing.
I wouldn't say it
with the Phillies. He was not good. With the Dodgers, he was not good. Where has he been good? And now you're gonna put him with the Guardians, and we got this guy. We're gonna figure him out. He's gonna listen to me.
Because there's one difference. There's one difference in those markets that Harvey went to. All those teams were bottom feeders. Cleveland still has a chance to win their division. That's the only point I'll say. There's still a chance. I'm not saying
I understand that, but the Dodgers were winning the division. He couldn't perform there.
I would say that, Los Angeles, maybe he was distracted. He didn't fit in that clubhouse. Different people. He's going there. Remember, Francona, everybody plays for Francona. Everybody loves Francona. Maybe that's what he
got to remember how badly the thoracic outlet syndrome derailed Harvey's career. I know he had Tommy John surgery a couple of years ago, but Noah Syndergaard should be able to still regain his full self. Maybe not the 97, 98 of yesteryear, but he should be able to still get 93, 94 on his fastball. But when he was pitching with LA, we were seeing too many 91, 92s, and his location, even from his days as a Met, was never great. He was able to get by blowing that fastball away from him and having that devastating 90-mile-an-hour slider. But
that's what I'm saying. So that is no longer in the arsenal. And I hate to say this, Tom, because I don't like to bring myself into conversations, right? But when I hurt my elbow at St. Joe's and my signature shot was the hook shot, and I couldn't extend my right elbow anymore. It affected my performance, and I wasn't the same player. That with Noah Syndergaard, it's the same thing. He can't do what he was good at doing, which is blowing guys away. Now he provides no asset. He can't figure out. He's not one of these guys, Tom Bryce. Like, for example, Rob Maraska mentioned all these guys from the Mets rotation who haven't been able to figure it out. Harvey, Syndergaard, Matz. All these different guys, right? These guys have not been able to adapt to their change where they can't go back to what they used to do. I'll give you a guy that was able to do that and deserves credit today because, by the way, it's going to be the best thing in the Mets season all season long. Bartolo Colon. Yep. Right? That is the guy who was able to find something, right, and make a
he's one of the.
So that's a guy who I think if I'm the Guardians, right, find someone like that. I try somebody cheap like that. There are other options out there.
I would even say on a poorer note, like a Rich Hill type poor.
That's what I'm saying. Give me a guy. That's a great example. Give me a Rich Hill. He hasn't pitched bad, but he knows how to pitch with what his age is at and what he needs to do.
Rich Hill has hung on forever. I don't even know how he's hung on as long as he has.
Pitchers.
Right.
You have guys like Rich Hill, guys like Bartolo. When Bartolo Colon won the Cy Young with the Angels in 2005, he was still throwing 94, 95 miles per hour.
Yep.
But a decade later, by the time he gets to the Mets, 88, 89. But his location was precise. right? He knew how to keep hitters off balance.
He was a chameleon.
And there's not
Jamie
enough of
Moyer
that.
was another example of guys that just kept going.
I'll put Harvey to the side because of the significance of his injuries, but you're right, guys. A guy like Steven Matz, whoever, no matter when he, whether it was with the Mets or with the Blue Jays or the Cardinals, anytime Steven Matz got into trouble, he mentally shrunk. That was his problem. He didn't pitch in the big spots, and that's why we marveled at what Jacob deGrom was able to do when he was on the field. And unfortunately, he's going by the way of Matt Harvey, where the injuries are derailing his career. The one guy who can adapt to any situation.
Justin is making a great point to support my point about Syndergaard. It's not just about what he physically can't do. It's also about mentally. I mean, mentally, he hasn't been able to adjust. He hasn't been able to I guarantee you that some of these pitching coaches, like Justin said, the Dodgers is probably like, listen, Noah, you got to learn how to be more of a pitcher with location. You got to maybe not try to throw it as hard, but be more. And he probably didn't want to listen. So that's the thing. Ignorancy also comes into play here. That is why I don't think the Guardians made a good move. This is not a good move. I agree with you, Tom. Rich Hill types. That's a guy that they should have.
Rich Hill. That's who they traded, not Pittsburgh. Rich Hill might get traded.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I would.
Carlos Santana got traded, right?
Yes, he did. But also too, I mean, like I said, Mark Pryor to me is one of the best pitching coaches in the game. He dealt with injuries himself, and he attempted to adjust at the end of his career, and he also watched Kerry Wood adjust. And be a totally different person. Here's a 100-mile-per-hour flamethrower striking out 20 Astros in his rookie year. It just takes the league by storm. Next thing you know, he comes back a few years later as their closer.
Yeah, he wound up having a good career. Yep, he adjusted nicely.
And was able to pitch with 92, 93 instead of the blazing 100-mile-per-hour.
I would even say another name at the Mets had Jason Isringhausen, who actually got his 300 save as a Met. Yeah. He was a guy, Generation K.
Went to St. Louis and learned how to become a good
pretty
closer.
Good career. I mean, you might have lost.
Tom, Jesse Orosco.
Yeah, but Orozco's like that. He was a reliever, like this.
But
like,
but he pitched forever.
Yeah, but no, we're talking about starting pitcher. I got you, but like we're talking starting pitchers in the current day, like the Met relievers. Like I got that, but like
Tom, let me just say this before we close this specific conversation because I brought up Bartolo Colon not only obviously because we love him and because he should be adored, but also because he's retiring as a Met September 17th. All right, and by the way, like I said, that will be the best day of the New York Mets season because if you want to talk about,
I agree with you on that.
Oh yeah, and that's how depressing the season's been. But at the same time, Bartolo Colon is. Listen, you want to talk about big guys that excite you? That is not Daniel Vogelback. That is Bartolo Colon.
Where did he pitch? 4 years? Was it 4 years as a Met? Right? He pitched 4 years.
Oh, he was fantastic. Fantastic.
That's an interesting. Yeah, I mean that's interesting. I mean, obviously, again, a guy who had reinvented himself.
A guy who played. It's amazing. A guy who played for so many different teams, right?
White Sox, Angels, Yankees,
the Expos. He played for so many different teams. Yet he embraces the Mets like he played there for 20 years. It's pretty awesome. And,
to the point
I'm not so sure he can't give us a few innings and be successful.
Well, goes to the point that Brad made. That's really where, he reinvents himself. He goes to the Mets.
Yeah.
And he was a big part of those teams that went to the World Series and went to the postseason. And he
when we got him from Oakland, he had pitched a couple of really good years for the Oakland A's. Yep. And he comes over to the Mets, and he was just this steady Eddie kind of guy. He was never going to blow you away, but he was always going to be like that, just stabilizer.
Yeah, I think that
he was 18-6 in an All-Star, 18-6 with a 2.65 ERA in 2013, and then he goes to the Mets. He wins 15 games, wins 14 games, wins 15 games, and was an All-Star in 2016.
Yeah, I said, he had some big moments. I mean, it was definitely...
He won 44 games in 3 years for the Mets.
No question that, listen, I think a lot of people will be seeing that. And I wanted to bring Chris back in because I know I also saw on the ticker that there was a trade between the Boston Red Sox and the St. Louis Cardinals, if I'm not mistaken. There was a trade there of some sort, I think. I might have saw it about 10 or so minutes ago. I don't know how significant it was, but I was curious because I was listening to you and Patrick talk about the trade deadline and some teams. Obviously, the Boston Red Sox, very fascinating team because they played probably a little bit better than people had anticipated. And we spoke a lot about the Dodgers. Dodgers make some moves here, but I was curious in terms of what you thought on the trade deadline for some other teams, most notably about the Boston Red Sox. I heard you and Patrick talk quite a bit about them. And I mean, what do you think you see from them and any other trades that'll be notable?
Yeah, he actually just texted me a little while ago about I think it was with the Cardinals.
Yes, that's why I wanted to ask you what you thought on that.
It was a rumor. I don't know. He says it's starting to build up with. Oh man, who was
Flaherty,
it? The guy
was it Flaherty? I think
it might have been. Hold on, I'll tell you 1 second.
Yeah, because I was curious on that, and as we do that, the Yankees and Orioles are scoreless in the top of the 8th. It looks like here with 2 runners on here, 2 outs, if I'm not mistaken. So, if you are watching that out there, Yankees and Orioles.
It's Montgomery. He said hearing a lot about the Red Sox trading with the Cardinals for Jordan Montgomery and second baseman or an infielder like DeYoung or Donovan. Donovan would probably cost a little bit more because he's younger and controllable.
Yeah, and I think a guy like DeYoung, they probably will just dump off and say take him at this point.
Yeah,
but Donovan would be more because I mean the Cardinals they're swirling around everywhere, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely. They're looking to sell.
And now the rumors are out there about Arenado.
And I think isn't it Flaherty and Montgomery are both free agents right after this year? So those guys you would think are going to be traded for sure.
But I would have to think, Chris, that if the Cubs, let's say, and the Angels, we know the Angels have gone to buy in, but if we think the Cubs are off the table, that the Cardinals would certainly be a team that would start to move people, and maybe that's where that comes to the Red Sox and the Red Sox again.
Absolutely,
they're right
and
there.
And they could probably use another bat, another pitcher. Sure, it makes all sense for them because they're above us, so. They're a game and a half or 2 games out of a wild card spot. So why not go for it? They're close.
They need to. I mean, like
you got Trevor Story returning, and you got Chris Sale returning as well. So between that and if they pick up another bat and another pitcher, that's a pretty good team too. So
would Tyler O'Neill be a guy they're inclined to trade?
I don't know, and he's often injured too, right? So they would probably think about trading him.
I know he's had some issues with Oliver Marmol, their manager.
Right.
There's been some issues within the clubhouse this year between O'Neill and Cardinals brass. So I wonder if he's a guy potentially on the market that Boston could look at maybe for the outfield. Obviously, it wasn't going to work out. They traded Hernandez back to the Dodgers. But the big bomb is the potential of Arenado to Los Angeles. Now, it doesn't seem like Arenado's on the market, but if the Dodgers pony up, it seems like the only team he would go to and waive his no trade clause.
And he's a California guy, correct?
He's a Southern California guy. Grew up going to Dodger games, everything. But I mean, if they get Nolan Arenado, watch out. I mean,
I would say, listen, if they, the Dodgers always find ways. But I was hearing you also. I think you might have mentioned this. I know the guys on MLB radio were mentioning this as to why the Red Sox have played well offensively. They've been really good offensively this year. I know you and Patrick definitely talked about that because I was listening to the show here. Is a guy like Justin Turner. I mean, here's a guy, professional hitter, and just finds ways to get hits. And you look at this lineup, and maybe they're a lot more dangerous than people realize here with the Boston Red Sox.
They could use a second baseman because in recent weeks for most of the year Turner's been their DH. But in recent weeks, they've started putting Justin Turner at second base, and it's not gone well.
Yeah, that's not good.
He's a natural third baseman, and obviously with Rafael Devers there, you're not going to have him play third base. He played third base for a decade for the Dodgers. That's where he's most comfortable.
But he's having a really good year, too. I mean, he's having
a great year with the bat.
For a guy who's almost 40.
But if you could get
what they lucked out too.
Yeah,
because with JD Martinez having a really good season with LA,
it's like a swap out. But with Turner having a good year and the return of Trevor Story, now obviously he's going to come back and play shortstop Story. But if you go get a second baseman, then that lessens the need for Turner to play second base, and he could DH again.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you shore up your defense. You have the offense because Turner's provided great numbers. You expect story to
16
hit.
home runs, 66 RBIs
Yeah,
going into
Turner's
today.
having a tremendous year. Absolutely.
Guy that again, since he left
37,
Mets,
38 years
great
old, he's
career.
having a tremendous year.
Yeah, he's had
And you know what? And Cora mentioned that in an interview. I was watching MLB Network the other day.
Yep.
And he was talking about Justin Turner. He goes, not just a great player, but he's so great in the clubhouse as a leader. He goes, I didn't realize how good he really was. So he's really important to that team.
And then there's another
he's essentially almost a de facto captain, if you will, in the Dodger clubhouse. He, you know, he was just that veteran leader. So I mean, he's great for the Red Sox clubhouse. And obviously, with some of the shortcomings that the Red Sox have, they wanted to keep his bat in the lineup, and they were suffering a little bit defensively at second base. So now, if you could get that second baseman, add some defense, and now all of a sudden the Red Sox are raring to go. Like you said, Chris, there's no reason for the Red Sox to not think that they're in it and be all in.
Yep.
I mean, you got guys. Listen, Story and Sale comes back. That's an automatic in-season trade, and they've got a manager that knows how to win, and they've got a lineup that's just been really consistent.
Kenley Jansen's pitching well too for Boston.
They've got a good lineup, and we'll certainly see other trade hypotheticals. See, Blake Snell, obviously, that's a big name that's been talked about. Padres, though, are winning here.
And Josh Hader as well.
They just is about to clear the bases here against the Rangers, so Padres put themselves further distance, and we'll have to see. Yankees also just had missed a chance, a golden opportunity to score some runs here against the
Orioles. Got robbed on that end of the inning play.
We'll have to see a lot of interesting, things that are going to come.
The biggest wild card is going to be the Padres because of the chip you just mentioned, Blake Snell and Josh Hader as well. Those are two guys I think who are impending free agents. I don't think they're going to deal Juan Soto. I know he's got a year.
Snell leads the league in ERA, so you definitely know he could be the biggest chip out there.
There's going to be a massive return. Even if he's just a rental.
I don't know. I mean, the Padres, I mean, they've got the talent, but they're in a case.
But the Mets, they've disappointed though.
But they've got more talent than the Mets. I think they got a little bit more talent.
Absolutely. But they've arguably been just as disappointing. Them too. They've not been able to put together a good streak. They have, and they've been up, they've been down, they've been up, they've not. You can't figure them out.
They've never really been consistent the whole season. Whereas the Mets, we did start 14-7. You had the winning streak in the early month of July. You maybe point to some things, but this team has pretty much been, I think, anywhere between. Yeah.
Another team to watch out for, like what to do or what they're going to do at the trade deadline, is the team that the Yankees are playing tonight. Is the Orioles?
Yep.
If they could add a pitcher. Especially starting pitcher, if they could add Matt Snell, we're talking about the Padres. If they could get Matt Snell, if they could get Blake Snell, that would be huge.
That's game changer.
For them. Huge.
But you know what? Maybe
they're missing is an ace.
But maybe that's a team that finally makes a move, because you think about it, they're going to be a playoff team. They're starting to draw some fans to the ballpark. It's been a team that's been dying for a winner for a while since the end of the years of Buck. Maybe it's their moment. They've got some prospects. They've had guys come up. They're in a very winnable division. Tampa Bay's come back to earth. Toronto has certainly, been okay.
They're 62-40, and they have the best record in the American League. Just think about that. Just process the fact that the Baltimore Orioles,
but that was
the number one seed in the American
last
League.
year. Don't forget, they had a great second half last year.
They were coming last year, and they're just getting better.
But what did they do? They traded Trey Mancini. Now I understand that they probably weren't going to be able to re-sign him, but at the same time, they were a couple games out of a playoff race, and they decided to trade their best asset, and it was a very bad. I'm hoping ownership does not do that this year, and I'm hoping ownership looks at this opportunity and says, "We have an opportunity. The AL is wide open. They have a chance to do damage in the postseason."
Oh, it's a very wide open.
Can I bring the Mets back here for a second?
Yeah, sure.
No,
last year, all right, no, but the Orioles, I think, are in somewhat of the same position as the Mets were last year, right? We mentioned how good the Mets were last year. They were riding high.
Right.
They go into the trade deadline, and you get Ruff and Vogelbach, right? When they could have really all right, we're here. You never know, and this year is a great example with the Mets. You never know when you're going to be that good for a while. So just take, when you get the chance, do it, and that's where I think the Orioles are at.
That could be tonight could also be a very big development for the Baltimore Orioles as well. You got I think it was like 6 1/3 from Grayson Rodriguez today.
Right.
He's a guy that's highly coveted, but he's really, really struggled in the big leagues. If he flips the switch, you acquire Blake Snell, all of a sudden that Baltimore rotation becomes scary. And their lineup is scary.
Absolutely.
They score runs. Their bullpen's good. This Cano.
Really good back end of the bullpen.
Yep,
really
absolutely.
good.
Absolutely.
Really good.
Baltimore is a team not to be messed with this year.
Absolutely. That's why I think they should go and get a top flight starter if they could get one. If they could get Snell, that would be awesome.
Well, I'll tell you what. You know what? Attendance is up 20+% there this season, and maybe you start to think fans.
And you can't tell me they don't have the prospects. Look at the guys that keep coming up to the big leagues.
They could trade away 3 guys now, and they'd still have the deepest farm system.
They got one of the best farm systems in all of baseball, and you're starting to see a lot of these guys now in the big leagues. Colton Cowser, Gunnar Henderson, all these guys are up in the big leagues, and there's still more in the pipeline.
Nobody's really impressed you. Texas has come back to earth. Houston's kind of sleepwalked. Minnesota, don't even get me started. You got Seattle, which has played underwhelming. You got the Angels, have played better. We've talked about the Yankees. We've talked about Boston. Toronto, it's kind of okay, Then you got Tampa's come back to earth. So maybe
I gotta tell you this. If you're Texas, this is really where you missed DeGrom. This is really where you missed Jacob DeGrom. He was pitching great.
I think if you're starting to think right now, and we'll get to closing thoughts in a second. You're going to look at just based on the postseason, and I think you said it in the group a couple days ago. You figure Baltimore and Tampa Bay are going to get 2 spots. The loser gets 1 wild card.
Yep.
Houston and Texas, the winner of that, and the loser gets 1 wild card spot. Obviously, the Central, it's going to be
they get a token first round exit.
Right, you get Minnesota or Cleveland. I mean, I have to throw Cleveland because they're still alive.
One of those teams one of those 2 teams, either Minnesota or Cleveland.
One of those teams is going to win 80. Whoever gets to 82 wins is going to probably win
basically.
That. Yeah, and then in the East, you're going to probably look at a free for all. You got Toronto.
But what I'm saying is that leaves 1 spot.
Yeah,
Toronto. So you're basically saying 1 postseason spot's available for the Blue Jays, the Boston Red Sox, the New York Yankees, the LA Angels,
and the Mariners.
The Mariners are slightly right behind the Angels. So I mean, there's literally 5
Mariners
teams.
Winning,
There's 5 teams for essentially 1 spot, and this is why I'm slightly skeptical about the Yankees making the postseason
because it's a crapshoot.
It's such a crapshoot, and there's even though there's no dominant team, there's more widespread.
Well, we spoke about it.
Whereas the National League, I feel like the National League to me is a 2-horse race. It's the Braves first, and the Dodgers are gonna be right there because they're gonna make the necessary.
Because then you've got everybody else that you got these young and kind of arriving teams, whether it's the Marlins, the Reds. You've got the Diamondbacks. So I think they're going to fall out of it. My opinion, they've kind of come back to earth a little bit. The Giants are there. Okay, I'll give you the Giants, and then you've got the Phillies, Brad's favorite team, which I think are going to wind up being there. And then it's going to be determined about what a team like the Padres does. And you got the Milwaukee Brewers are kind of in their usual spot. That's kind of cut and dry, pretty much. I mean, if you buy the Mets, but I don't. And then the Cubs, who are if they don't sell, they're to be determined. So,
but with the American League, with Baltimore and Texas getting good, it's almost starting to feel like a lost opportunity for the Yankees over the last couple of years. But now you got to
the Yankees had opportunities this season.
Roster.
By Tampa Bay came back to earth. You were in a division. And look at the series you lost. Look at the game. So you was there. I mean, look, now maybe the Yankees turn it on. Judge comes back. Cortez comes back. Rodon's
absolutely.
Maybe you make a move. But, we'll have to see what happens. Obviously, a lot to ponder here. And the Toronto Blue Jays did win today. So certainly the Yankees kind of need to win here to keep pace. They get a 4-1 win over the Angels. And Ohtani leaves, obviously, with cramped legs. We'll see if he comes back.
That's the most intriguing series if you're a Yankee fan because the team right behind you is facing a team you're chasing.
I think I want the team
but the problem is if you struggle against the Orioles and you can't beat the Orioles, now the Angels are ahead of you.
That's what he said, Chris, at the very beginning.
Now the Angels are ahead of you. And now that's another team you got to
these 10 games are very crucial for the Yankees. And, we're going to be talking about it undoubtedly and looking forward to all of it here on Sportswire Radio. So definitely a lot to ponder for next week's show. And Boston is up 2-1 as we speak in the bottom of the 7th. Giants are up at bat with 2 runners on. It looks like first and second, no out. So we'll see if the Giants can continue their ways, and we'll talk more about it here on Sportswire Radio next week. So we're going to get close to the end of the show here with some closing thoughts, and I'll go with you, Rob Maraska, first. I think you had a contest, if I'm not mistaken, right? Contest winner. So we'll go with the contest winner. Closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, say? And the floor is yours, my friend.
No, it's not a contest winner. I have a new contest, and
right.
I was able to get this card. It's the Topps Now Ohtani Major League Baseball doubleheader first shutout of his career in Game 1 of that doubleheader, and 2 home run encore in Game 2. So that's a big card. Only a certain amount will put out as usual. I think they're sold out. I got one to give away to someone in our audience. So that's going to go up on Twitter tomorrow and Facebook. So guys, retweet it or whatever you got to do. Let's make this one big, because the last time I did a Ohtani one, I had a huge following for that. So that's going to go up tomorrow. So that's a big card. I mean, that's a big deal. What that guy did in that doubleheader is just unbelievable.
No, no question about it. I mean, just the season he's having and what he's doing is
really
really
his first at bat tonight.
Yeah, and then 3 in a row. Yep, unbelievable.
Stupid.
So you can follow me at R Maraska on Twitter, Rob Maraska on Facebook, and that'll be up tomorrow morning. The contest starts, and I'll announce it next Friday night here.
Okay, I'll definitely share a clip. I'm sure there'll be something of that. So good stuff. We'll definitely see how that develops from the Ohtani. Really the interesting name that we spoke about quite a bit during these last several weeks on Sportswire, but I think we know the answer now with obviously the Angels acquiring some arms, that they're going to be in the business of trying to win. And Anthony Finkel mentioned something I do Wednesday nights for the news. Appreciate that. He's talking about some guy, Lenny. There's a guy I do a show on, and I cover news Wednesday nights. And there's a guy that calls up. He's like an ex-cop. The guy doesn't shut up, basically. He goes on and on and on. His name is Lenny. It's Lenny. Is it Lenny the cop? I think Lenny the cop. The guy just goes on and on and on and on. And it's like, in fact, the running joke is in the show that I do news in, I actually said we need to have the Lenny rule. The Lenny rule is 5 minutes. The guy gets 5 minutes. That's it. 5 minutes, and you're off. So when we take the calls, I said 5 minutes because the guy, you can't get an edge in with the guy. It's like he's like in a helium balloon. He's like Geddy Lee when he was singing the first 4 or 5 Rush albums. It's like a helium. It was really, the guy is like Geddy Lee. Those first 2112 Hemispheres.
I don't should be.
Yeah, he's like, and it's like the guy just goes on, and it's like, you gotta let me speak. Let me speak. So yeah, that's what he's saying. But congratulations, Anthony, on the 10-year anniversary of DPH. Chris, I'm gonna go turn it over to you. I'm gonna give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say? And the floor is yours. And I can't thank you enough.
Tom, thank you, guys. Great show as always. And
yeah, Lenny the cop. I still can't get the guy out of my mind.
That's hilarious. And Anthony Finkel, congratulations, 10 years, man. Running a business, your own business. I think that's awesome. That's not easy. So congratulations on that. We're going to be keeping an eye on the trade deadline coming up Tuesday evening at 6. So Patrick and myself will be doing a talking rivals probably.
You guys are waiting until after Tuesday?
Yeah, probably Tuesday night, probably 6:37. We'll be recording it, so we'll get it out.
Okay, so I think I'll play it maybe Wednesday or toward the end of the week because I'm live. I'm live with Skulls on Tuesday. We'll see how that goes. Well, I mean, it'll be good. I mean, it'll draw subscribers. I'm sure it'll draw listeners. But what comes out of his mouth, we'll see. That'll be interesting. Probably more interesting than Lenny the cop will. But I'll have to say to be determined. But I'll definitely play the show because I got a chance to play it right before we went on the air. So I look forward to that. So I kind of figured you guys would do a show after.
Yeah, no, because we usually do Monday, but I'm sure there'll be deals the next day. So
it doesn't make any sense to do a show Monday. Exactly, it makes no sense.
So let's wait till it's done. We were going to do a Twitter thing. I was like, nah, let's just do it.
Yeah, have you guys done a Twitter space yet? Have you done those Twitter spaces?
We've done a couple, but earlier in the season.
Okay.
We haven't done one recently, so.
It's a big thing, actually. I know a lot of wrestlers I know actually do these Twitter spaces. They get a lot of people that tune in, believe it or not. The Twitter spaces are a way you can kind of get sometimes you get like 15, 20 people at a time, and they actually like
they're not bad.
It's real. It's a real thing.
Pretty
So
cool.
guys do it. So
no, definitely. So we'll be doing that. So look for us, Talking Rivals, talkingrivals.com. And then of course Liftoff we'll be doing probably Wednesday or Thursday. And we got the Hall of Fame game for the Jets August 3rd. So
we'll definitely try. I'll try to work in some football next week. I'll definitely try to work in a few thoughts on football. Obviously, I think people will come into the show, I think, more once we get the football season, because I think baseball, I think people are kind of down right now with the Yankees and Mets. It's not like last year people were excited.
We need football right now.
Yeah, we need football. No, we definitely need football. It's not been.
And it looks like we'll be getting Dalvin Cook, right?
Yep.
I mean, he's coming in for a visit, so
and Barkley's
towards that way.
The Giants. Barkley signed a 1-year deal, so I'm kind of optimistic about the New York football season for a change. You're throwing the Bills.
Apparently, he was partying at a barbecue in Merrick tonight.
There you go.
Nope. For the Long Island guys, maybe you weren't too far, but
Long Island.
But great stuff. I'm looking forward to, obviously, that Liftoff. Jets has been in the rotation. I'm going to keep last week's show in there as well, so I'm really excited about those shows, and I look forward to the posting line. Maybe one day we'll do a Twitter space, but because I have the video stream, I feel like I don't really see the need for a Twitter space. But, hey, you never know. But good stuff there. Great stuff, Chris. Everybody can follow you at CP7Y. Justin, I want to give you the floor, give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say, and really enjoyed the back and forth, and the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Tom. I think the most noble thing is to admit when you're wrong, and I think we all know where I'm going with this. Last Friday, when I did my closing thoughts, I talked a lot about the British Open, and I had no confidence in Brian Harman holding his day 2 lead, and he turned it into a rout. I mean, he won by 6 strokes over Sepp Straka, and it really just wasn't even close. Like, he only shot 1 under on day 4, but he just was in control and took advantage of the fact that playing par golf was good enough that day, because guys were messing up left and right. Guys were trying to chase and be extra aggressive. You saw Rory McIlroy kind of try to climb to the top leaderboard, and he struggled with the consistency. John Rahm made a slight run on day 3, couldn't quite do it on day 4. Jason Day only shot a 2 under on day 4. I mean, to see a six shot victory, is one of the more impressive feats. I think when we looked at the Open as a whole, I thought maybe 7-8 under would win the tournament. Even though you saw some guys at 9 and 10 going into day 3, but it just felt like the course with the weather conditions, and it's always rainy, it's cold, it's windy over in Europe, in the United Kingdom. I'm sure your people, your wrestlers out there, they can tell you how nasty the weather is.
I actually
it was cold. It was disgusting.
Yeah,
guys were wearing.
You said that. I actually saw guys. They were posting on Facebook, a lot of the wrestlers, and I was seeing, and it was like the weather was terrible last weekend there, because guys like darting the rain and everything.
Yeah, these golfers were wearing hoodies. They were wearing windbreakers.
Yeah, the Big Cheese, one of our big guys, he got caught in the storm out there. He got caught in it.
And you know what? Brian Harman was able to, hold up. He never fought. He never fell apart. He was able to hit his. The biggest thing for him is he was able to hit his fairways, and especially when you're playing links golf out in Europe, if you miss your fairways, you're really in a bad situation. A lot of these courses out here in the U.S., if you miss the fairway, there's a lot of room for recovery, and saving yourself. It's really not that many opportunities, especially with these bunkers that are literally 15, 20 feet deep. You literally go in there to get your ball, and you can't even see out. It's like, so you're just basically hoping it goes in the right direction. But all in all, congratulations to him, first major. He's won a couple times this year. And that's a wrap. That's a wrap for the major golf season. So it's until the Masters next year. So,
yeah, golf. It's kind of all comes in almost like one.
It comes and goes, especially with the fact that they moved the PGA from August to May. So you got the Players in March, you got the Masters in April, the PGA in May, the U.S. Open in June, the British Open in July. So it'll comes all in a row.
You know what that means? That means, unfortunately, that we're actually going to see some colder weather soon. That tells me, because we're in August now. I know we're still in the throes of summer, and today was like the hottest day in the Earth's history. I think it was, but still, it tells you that it's coming. When August comes,
but what it also tells you is JETS season's on its way.
That does too. Now football, yeah, we're gonna be excited for football. Some St. Joe's, a lot of stuff here. So yes, but I still look at it when I'm outside working and delivering the Staten Island Advance, and it's like now the sun doesn't come out till about 5:15, 5:20 now, whereas before, about a month ago, it was like before 5 o'clock. So that's where I'm getting a little bit depressed. But we still got some good weather ahead. Next couple of months is still going to be good, and great stuff, Justin. Obviously,
all I got for you. Follow me on Twitter at JGNLE12.
Absolutely, we'll definitely talk, I'm sure, a lot more about post deadline and football, a lot of stuff here. But we certainly did not save the best for last, but we definitely saved the biggest for last here when it came to the brute force Brad Weiss, who I know is going to have a lot to say. Obviously, we spoke Monday with Coach Gaudieso. A lot of people saw us on Instagram, got a lot of views out there, a lot of reactions. In fact, Brad, I even got a coach, Anthony Ceracito, actually from Amityville. I don't know if you know the name or not. He messaged me. Okay, I figured that. Said he watches us, says he wants to come on to the show, and we have a date for him. I believe we have him on August the 17th, so Coach is going to come on and probably talk about many of the people that we know, like Billy Heenan, Andy, Olivier Laurent, obviously Coach Gaudieso, a lot of the St. Joe's guys, so obviously Dempsey as well. So it'll be interesting to hear what Coach has to say. Another coach coming on here. Also, Anthony McLean, supposed to have him on. I shared his story for us on Instagram. Waiting for a day for him. He's got a tournament that he's promoting. So a lot of basketball stuff on the pike, and a friend that we might know. You might have heard of him. You're probably getting annoyed by him a lot on the court this week. Will probably be with us right before he goes away to Pennsylvania. You'll talk about that, I'm sure, and Liberty games ahead. A lot of big games coming up, and I'm sure other stuff you're doing. And I turn it over to you, my friend, and the floor is yours. You know the drill. Fire away.
Yeah, thank you, Tom, for another great week of the show. And by the way, if anybody didn't notice, my voice is pretty good tonight. So you
didn't have to speak that much. That's why.
I was controlling myself, and I will say that I've been recommended a lot of different things to try. So I've been trying a lot, and my voice is better.
May I ask, what have you tried? Because I am actually a talker like you, as I'm sure you can imagine. What have
Well, I've been recommending specific teas, and the teas are actually working very well. The lemon and honey combinations are doing well. So, a couple other things that I've tried, but ultimately right now I'm on a little tea kick and it's working.
Okay.
So
you sound better than Monday, so you sound all right.
Yeah. So thank you, Justin, Chris, Rob, for another great week. Certainly happy to be on once again. You can follow me on social media at bweiss20 and Coach Brad Weiss. On Instagram, you can follow me, and on Twitter, you can follow me at BradWeiss20, and Facebook, searching Bradley Weiss. So, first of all, Anthony Finkel, thank you for coming in tonight. I know John Gonzalez wasn't here, but I always follow his group, the Sports Authorities. Anthony Finkel, even though, I am very proud of you for those 10 years. That's an amazing feat. I will say you're still on for that barbecue, so I'm waiting so you remember. All right, the barbecue, and also we definitely have to go to a Liberty game soon, but I'll hold my thoughts about the Liberty in a second. Sure. What I do want to do, though, is thank our guest this week, Jason Gaudieso, for coming on. He was spectacular. The interview, as you said, Tom, did very well. The clips have done very well. I even got to speak to the aforementioned Ryan McNeely today about the clip and how much he loved it and how funny it was.
Yeah, I spoke to Gordon and I spoke to Ryan a little bit actually.
So they were very happy with it, and I think we're going to have a little bit of a fun response here this week, hopefully on their next show.
Well, so I'm used to people giving me response at this point. I think I was quoted in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 7 different podcasts alone this week. So I'm sure it'll come up.
That's awesome. So Swing the Soul, definitely follow them on all social media platforms. And another one that's coming back, Tom Bryce. We haven't heard from them in a while, but I spoke to the aforementioned James Cronin with the Sportorium podcast. Okay. They're going to be back with a new episode coming here soon as the football season comes right back. They're going to be back. So excited to hear them. And James told me his prediction for the Jets season, and I'm ready to make my predictions. I'm ready to give you my Lions predictions, Jets, Giants, etc. So I did it last year. I'm going to be ready this year. So certainly excited for that. But again, I want to go back to thanking Coach Gaudiezzo. He was fantastic.
Yep.
He is certainly one of the better interviews we've had. We've had him on 5 times.
And he loves coming on, which I love about Coach Gaudiezzo is that he really wants to come on. It's genuine. Like I feel like
for sure. He's into it. He loves it. And
we spoke with him off the air for an hour. Like he was really interested. We were talking a lot. He asked us questions about St. Joe's. He was really sometimes you get guests on in the basketball college world, and it's okay, they did the interview with you, and it's okay, I gotta go. It's but he was super, warm and engaging. I mean, I really have to give him all the credit in the world. And I also, before you get back to you, I want to give a big shout out to our friend Jason Facina, because Jason Facina also listened. He was very happy also with the interview because we plugged his college quite a bit.
Yeah, so the last thing I wanted to say on Gaudiezzo was obviously, like I said, it was a great interview, but also the interview itself actually got me a lot of follows on Instagram. So
you did? Yeah, I got a couple off it.
A lot of people came and followed me. Probably mutual friends of Jason's, or some people that probably know Jason but also wanted to follow me. So that was pretty cool. And again, I got a few other people just reaching out to me saying how cool that interview was. So want to thank Jason. That was spectacular. But now to kind of pivot to what's going on. First of all, tomorrow I'll be back on the court. We have a Long Island Nets clinic tomorrow morning in New Hyde Park. We're excited for that with Wade and the crew. So I'm excited for another Long Island Nets clinic. I have a tournament here this Sunday with my Level Up team. So excited for that as well, amongst other things. And one of those things, as we said, Tom, is an impending interview with my guy, James DeSimone, who's currently in Pennsylvania. He's Pennsylvania working with Coach Jesse Winter and Coach Chris at a sleepaway camp, doing a great job. So want to give them credit. James will be back. His schedule is out, and I'm already marking the dates where I'm going. So me and Tom already discussed.
I think we spoke about off the air in New York City.
We discussed a game against CCNY, so I'm looking forward to that. Amongst, just, again, getting to speak to him again and also get to hear, from a player that's going to be going into college basketball. Which is pretty exciting.
And we get him literally right before he goes there. Literally, we're getting him days before he leaves. I mean, think about that for a second.
So, I think it's a cool kind of perspective of something that maybe we haven't had here on the show yet, but I think we're going to get a nice perspective. So we're looking forward to that. To get to my Liberty, they had a tough loss tonight, but again, you want to talk about New York's best team. They're 18-6. I think that's pretty good. They're coming off a 4-game winning streak for tonight's loss. So they are New York's best team, and they are the team that, again, the reason why I talk about them is, one, is obviously I like them as a product, but two, they deserve to be talked about. Not the New York Mets and not the Yankees. They're not playing good enough to be talked about. Liberty are. And certainly I am really happy to see, one, that there's a big contingent. In fact, Tom, Bryce, the upcoming game against the Aces, the Barclays Center is almost sold out from top to bottom. So that just tells you how good this Liberty team is and how many people are actually starting to get interested in the women's game, which to me is fantastic because they deserve it. So
absolutely.
I want to make sure I recognize that every week, especially with the Liberty continuing to prosper and being New York's best team. So, besides that, again, you guys mentioned football season. Excited for that, getting everything set up with that as well. I'm ready to beat John Gonzalez in the picks. I'm motivated. You want to talk about motivation? You said Noah Syndergaard's motivated.
Yeah, I did.
You don't got no motivation compared to me. All right, when I'm talking about beating John Gonzalez, because that is different. So,
but you got Justin and Chris. They're going to feel the same way, and then Anthony Finkel, the napkin guy, is going to also feel that he wants to.
Well, no napkins this year, but certainly he will feel the same way. And the last thing I just wanted to say was I want to give a shout out to the Rivalries Never Die tournament that I played in last weekend. We actually had a really good game, and ironically, we played New Hyde Park, and Joe Gocher, as I mentioned, was on the team.
Joe was pretty cool. Joe was another guy we were supposed to have on, and I guess it never.
Yeah, I mean, Joe's a busy guy. He's doing a lot, so, he hasn't been able to get on. But
Joe's had a tough kind of luck career almost. I kind of feel bad for Joe in that sense.
Yeah, he had an interesting career, but at the same time, he's a good guy. We
always liked Joe. Joe always supported us. Joe was a good supporter.
Yeah, he was on. We played against each other on the court. It was a good game. We did lose, but ultimately, the brute force was in effect. Though I actually had a pretty good game. So I am thinking about playing more on the court. We have a men's league game here this Sunday, so I'm definitely excited for a lot of the things to come, just like the Liberty and football and everything else I mentioned. What I'm not excited for is to continue to watch New York Mets baseball. I almost refuse to watch it at this point because it's not entertaining. So, New York Mets, I'll see you back in 2024, give you another shot. But this season, I said, is over, and I'll repeat that as we go forward. So thank you, everybody, for another great week of the show. Looking forward to next week, and looking forward to all the great things that we're doing, including that interview coming up with James DeSimone. I think we got a few more up the pike as well, Tom.
Yes, I think we got James. I don't know how well you know Coach Cressito. Do you know Coach Cressito well?
So I don't know him that well. What I will say is that I know he's at Amityville. And I also do know that we're playing Amityville this year, so I'll be excited.
So I actually can work Coach you into Coach. Okay, because Coach, he actually reached out about you, so I'm glad that it matches.
Yeah,
so,
you know, like you said, we got a lot of mutual friends, so I think I think it'll be a great interview, and I'm looking forward to that. And like you said, it's that week that we're going to have a lot of great interviews. So
yes, we have him. I think. Well, we were supposed to have Anthony McLean. Oh, I know you know from Brooklyn, and I think we're supposed to have him next week, but it's kind of tough to kind of hammer him down. But he actually reached out, heard the interview, appreciated. Obviously, he played against Jason when Jason was at CCNY, so he knows Jason very well from the CUNY days. So that was good. And then obviously, I'm sure we'll have more. Again, we're not too far away from college basketball. It'll be 15th of October. Everybody, I know Jason gets to go earlier because he's at the D2 level. But for us, it's October 15th, where everybody gets ready to kind of go back and practice and get in the weight room again. So I'm excited about that. And I want to shout out one more time Jason Festina, because I think we're working on something for us to do something with Five Towns, with the college there, something in person. So we'll see if we can make that happen toward the end of the month. But that's kind of still in the working process. But yes, a lot of college basketball. Very excited about that. Great stuff ahead. Everybody can follow you, bweiss20, and I see you broke 1,000 followers on Instagram, so very good stuff on that. Got some new followers, and also Coach Brad Weiss20, also on Instagram, Brad Weiss20 on Twitter, Bradley Weiss on Facebook, and if it's still a thing, Bradley Weiss on Snapchat, and also TikTok. I think you're on, right? Coach Brad Weiss on TikTok, right?
I think I'm on there. Honestly, I don't even use it.
Okay. Well, Dempsey's big on TikTok. I know Dempsey, but she's big everywhere. Dempsey, if Dempsey could find Threads, she'd be on Threads. She probably is. So good stuff on that. But obviously, looking forward to more coverage. We'll definitely be back here on Sportswire Radio a bunch of times. Sunday night, 10 o'clock Eastern time with Wrestling Championship Entertainment's the resident rock star Sean Jovi and the WCE Interstate Openweight Champion James Marshall. Also going to be here Tuesday night with Skulls. We'll see how that goes. Also going to be here coming up a few other different times. I think next Friday with the regular guys, but also there's a spot before that. So we'll obviously check the schedules, and we'll definitely have more information on that as well. But tonight on Sportswire Radio, we were joined by Justin Gianelli, Chris Bizet of the Liftoff Jets and the Talking Rivals, Rob Maraska, and we also got a new contest, and the Brute Force Brad Weiss, the legendary SJLI Golden Eagle, 27th all-time in school history in rebounds, also a part of the Level Up Basketball Organization, Long Island Nets, also head coach of our Plainview Boys JV team. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, the man behind Sportswire Radio. And also I want to give my thoughts and prayers, last thing here, thoughts and prayers to one of our listeners, Anastasia Riznia. Her brother Derek is going through some issues, so I hope that she hangs in there along with her brother. Definitely wanted to give her my thoughts and prayers. Obviously, big listener of ours. Also, huge Chargers fan, so I'm sure she'll be back here for the football talk. So I wanted to acknowledge her. Also, John Gonzalez of the Sports Authorities Group. So I want to thank John. Big shout out to him as well. Joe Dell, Anthony Finkel, Mr. Big Steve, everybody for tuning in here. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are on Sportswire Radio.